Oh. Welcome to Cinemania. I'm your host, Brandon Shillingford, alongside my co-hosts.
Adam Hugo.
Adam Cheek.
Sam
Goodrich.
Landon Roberts. So I'm eating very spicy curry right now.
Landon Messy Roberts.
Landon chomping on that curry Roberts. And welcome to Cinemania. This is the show where we discuss all things film, movies, television, the whole gamut. So while we're going in the show, let's just hop right into it. We start the show by talking about what we've seen in the last week, what we watched. So does anyone want to go first?
Can I start? Because I haven't seen a lot, but there's one thing I wanna just go into.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. So okay, first of all, the good that I've seen. I watched the Watchmen series. I don't think we talked about that last time, but I watched the entirety of the Watchmen series on HBO. Masterpiece?
Yeah.
Better
Has
than
the most Emmy nominations out of any show.
100% earned it. Maybe better than the graphic novel. It's hard to say. It's kind of up there.
It stays true to the graphic novel.
Exactly. It stays true to it and really pushes it takes what the graphic novel was saying and follows the logical paths of the world that it creates to create a modern day version of it. And it's something that is true to the graphic novel without being beholden to it, without feeling without feeling the need to constantly make reference or to not try anything new or do anything crazy. For example, the nostalgia drug, which that episode, oh my god, what's the name of that episode?
This Extraordinary Being.
Yes, that episode is one of the greatest television episodes I've ever seen, followed very closely by A God Walks into a Bar, which is also an incredible title, but it's just the purest form of following that narrative style from the graphic novel. I don't know. It's just an incredible show that's just so well made. It's so engaging and it's so tight. It's 9 episodes? You're in, you're out, you're done, and it has a complete story more than most shows that go on for 10 seasons, it's insane to me. I have an issue sometimes with certain shows where if they're an hour long, I feel how long they are. They're a slog. This show, whenever we get to the end, I would go, oh, it's been an hour. Holy shit, okay.
They pack a lot in an hour.
They do so much in an hour, but it never feels rushed. It never feels unearned. Everything is so well done. Performances are incredible. Effects are great. I wish I could say more about it. It has been a bit since I've seen it, but it's just such an incredible show. It's so well done. If you haven't seen it,
sorry.
No, go ahead. I was wrapping up. What's up?
It's also a show that benefits from rewatches.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited to rewatch.
So much foreshadowing, and there's so much just they set all the stages so early in the show, and you're not really aware of it. You're your first watch through, but second time around you're oh shit, they're doing it. Sorry, the curry.
You're good. Take a break if you got to, man. You're fine. But yeah, and I think it's a show that handles racism really well. I know Damon Lindelof is the main creative force behind the show, but I really admire him sort of really getting a writer's room of women and people of color and really, understanding that this was a group effort, and to tell this story really requires personal experiences that he doesn't have, therefore making the narrative stronger from so many different perspectives,
He I listened to a podcast with him on it, and one of the things he mentioned in the podcast was that, like you said, Sam, he really made an effort, which a lot of white showrunners don't nowadays, to surround himself with diverse voices and diverse writers who could give experience and kind of give their own experience happening with racism in America at this point in time. And as crazy as the universe of Watchmen is, the fact they're able to ground it in such tangible fears, like a traffic stop, or I don't know, someone calling you the N-word, is it's very, very, the fact they're able to do that in this really zany and crazy world of Watchmen is as a testament to the power of the story and the writers in it. And I think that more than anything, the show has so many themes, but like for me, the one that kind of does more than anything is like generational trauma. We've talked about it before, like on and off the show, how like, because generational trauma isn't like a new thing in terms of like drama. It tackled like a lot of kind of like television shows and everything before, but like the way they're able to tie it to like something like the Tulsa race riots and kind of like really racist American, kind of like how, I don't know. Whenever I like watch the show, I think about Adam. You probably know about it. Like it's gonna be a weird connection, but like Adam, like, you remember how in at Fenway Park there was the banner that they rolled out. It said racism is as American as baseball.
Was that a few years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the fans brought. Yeah.
Yes, and like thinking about it, and Washington really drives the point home. Like racism is weaved throughout the fabric of like all of this country, and Watchmen really does a great job showing how that racism plays a huge role in African Americans and in our kind of like daily lives and how it affects us. Orange.
100%.
100%.
Better myself. But I mean, that's just scratching the surface, and we could probably go on for days about Watchmen, how great it is. But I'll just end up by saying you should watch it if you haven't. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen personally, and I think it's an incredible achievement. And then I finally caught up with the group. I watched Palm Springs. I actually watched it the night before I moved into my new home, which watching a movie about sort of watching a movie about escaping from terrible situations and feeling like you're trapped in toxic situations the night before you leave a situation like that. Very, very impactful. But beyond that, I think it's such an incredible film. It's such a well-made, fun, but like not afraid to be emotional and like really earning it type of movie. I just think it does. I personally haven't seen this, and I think that Edge of Tomorrow might have done it. But I love the idea of coming into a time loop movie with someone who has been there, right? Someone who's experiencing it, who already knows what's going on, and then like roping someone else into it with them, right?
There's 3 in this movie.
Right. And then that's another thing. You it's not just 2 people or one person. It's like a group of people, and you just see how they react to it, how they deal with it. And I think this is kind of getting to spoilers, but I just love the way, I'm forgetting her name, the other main actress in the film.
Kristen
I love
her
because she's so, I never seen her or really heard of her before, but she's so incredible in this movie. And I think the way that she deals with the time loop, especially at the end, is so smart. And I'm just like, why has no one thought of this before? Why has no one thought like how to use infinite time, you know? Like,
Well, a little movie called Happy Death Day to You.
there you go. I was about to say,
But much worse.
But it's just, I just think it's such an incredible movie. And one thing I wanted to ask, a little point of discussion, because I feel like I have my own theory on this, but it's not fully developed, is what do we think that the dinosaurs represent? Like the stegosauruses that show up?
You can talk about the first line if you want.
I don't. If we're taking this not from like a thematic lens or like kind of like just like analyzing lens, if we're taking that away from it, I kind of like when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, so it really wasn't like a time loop. It was just every time they died, they went to like a different reality kind of thing. So like I think the reality that they're in now.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, so honestly, I hadn't considered it being in reality, which makes sense because it is a science fiction film. Like that's entirely possible. So I like that interpretation.
Because they talk about that in the movie. I think like Andy Samberg is like, every time we die, everybody around us keeps going. We just go to a different timeline or a different kind of like area. And that's how I personally read it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
But
no, I think that 100% has a basis. I think they are alluding to that in a sense. But I guess I saw it more in like a thematic sense than a reality sense. And the way I thought about it was like, it's almost like dinosaurs are these creatures that died out that like weren't aware of their impending doom, you know? They're sort of tragic figures. And I feel like this movie really captures in a weird way the feeling of living in like 2020, where like there feels like there's no future and there's no hope and we're all just kind of, you know,
Oh no, that's
going through
exactly
life.
what it is.
And I think
That's
the dinosaurs
yeah.
kind of represent like these, you know, tragic, not tragic, but just these creatures that just keep going, you know, sort of almost blissfully unaware of their doom. And that's kind of the way we need to treat life to a certain extent, not ignoring our problems, but not stagnating and and not fully ignoring them, but taking them head on and not being afraid about where the future's going to take us, you know.
Yeah. I think that the film is like very, very interesting in terms of like how it tackles nihilism.
I was about to say the same thing. Fuck you, Brandon.
You can go ahead.
I literally had the same exact like phrase like planned out. I was like, oh, the film's like really good at like capturing what nihilism is. And you just stole it from me, you bitch.
You go ahead. You're gonna do a lot better than I will. You go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No,
Like,
you do it.
no, you do it.
Yours is gonna be better than mine.
Okay, Brandon go first and then Landon follow up. How's that
Yeah,
sound?
you go first, Brandon.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So basically, I think that the film, in terms of how it tackles nihilism, how it really tackles how each of us can feel our own unique sense of like worthlessness or like uselessness, or how no matter what we do, we're never going to have really any real impact. But I think the true beauty in the film lies in really the end, where it's like the most important things are really going to be how like, oh, well, like the big kind of like widespread changes we can make on like the world or whatever, but how like the smaller changes we can like, the smaller kind of impacts we can make on people in our lives, people we love. And like, I just thought that was really, really poignant, and I kind of cried at the end of it because it was really, really beautiful. And like, I don't know, I just found the ending of it really, really beautiful too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my whole thing about nihilism. I think it's so interesting.
I agree with Brandon because I consider, I guess this is going to sound pretentious, but I consider myself a nihilist, quote unquote. I know that sounds pretentious, but I found it like really kind of, I guess, heartwarming. Just I love how first of all, Andy Samberg's character is named Nile.
Mm.
I
The
didn't think about that.
nihilistic
It's such
character.
a weird name. Like, of course, it's
Yeah.
got to represent that, right?
Yeah.
I didn't
You
think about
have
that.
him expressing these nihilistic ideologies throughout the entire film. And it's more of a journey of him understanding what nihilism is to him and why there is meaning to his life and what meaning he is trying to find within his life. And I find it heartwarming because he realizes that, yeah, there is no meaning to life, but is that going to make me happy? The only thing that's going to make me happy is to find this kind of false sense of meaning. And that sounds negative in a sort of way, but like, I feel like that's kind
That's
of
the beauty of the film.
yeah, that's the root of the film. It's just like, yeah, everything sucks and like it doesn't even matter what you do, but like whatever makes you feel the best way possible and whatever makes you feel like you are accomplishing something is what you should stick to, and you should pursue that. And I think that's really like heartwarming, and I think that's really like powerful almost. And I like Brandon, I cried at the ending as well because I think that movie is like near perfect. I don't know what I gave it on Letterboxd. I don't even know if I rated it on Letterboxd, but it's really great. And fuck you, Adam. You didn't like it.
Did I not? I kind of loved it. So
No, Adam was like, I don't think it's all that great or something. You were like,
no, okay. So I had seen like people saying it was a perfect movie, which I think it's close. But I think I gave it 4. I think I said I needed a rewatch.
Yeah.
Which I still haven't done, but I need to.
Yeah.
that movie slaps.
I just wanted to kind of like touch on something. I don't remember. I think it was Sam, like something you said, Sam, like this, like it definitely is a perfect film for 2020, honestly, because like in this time where we're all by ourselves, we're like, oh man, what's our place in the world? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna create in our this time by ourselves? It's like you don't like Landon said, you don't find that like meaning in yourself or like things you do or whatever. You find it in like other people.
Mhm.
And like,
Yep.
I don't know, just like, I don't know, it's, ooh.
It's just so smart because it shows like the toxic aspect of nihilism and like how people try to like distract themselves from nihilism. Like Andy Samberg's kind of a shitty person at the beginning of the movie. He like distracts himself from this nihilistic ideas by like having sex with like all of these people and just like drinking, doing drugs, all of these. That's not, these aren't bad things, quote unquote, but it's more of just like a coping mechanism for him. And when he's not actually having true meaning, it's just things that will distract him from the reality that he is in. And I think that's really powerful as well. But
And well, not to negate any of the points you've just made, the movie's also really funny. Like, it's actually a really funny movie. Like, it has one of my favorite, like, in these types of movies, like montages of all the stuff they do, like
Mhm.
of all the ways they mess with stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
just, God, it's so, yeah, it's just a killer movie, and it's so good. And you know, just another notch in Neon's belt, another argument for why A24 might want to start watching their backs, you know?
We'll see what happens when She Dies tomorrow, which comes out tomorrow.
It's supposed to be amazing.
Oof, I can't wait, dude.
Yeah.
Directed by the woman that was in Upstream Color. Let's go.
You see the whole thing about I told Lan about it. You see the whole thing about her and Shane Carruth?
Yeah, it's not great. It's a
Yeah.
bad time.
Yeah.
Bad time. Not gonna lie.
At the El Royale.
Speaking of, sorry?
Nothing.
Sorry.
I referenced like a really good movie.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
But speaking of shitty men in Hollywood, I'm just gonna talk about this because it ended today. But I think I talked about this off of the podcast. But there is a podcast I listen to called "You Must Remember This," made by Karina Longworth, who is Ryan Johnson's wife, actually. And it's a podcast that goes through history of film and like specifically of the 20th century, from like the beginning of Hollywood all the way up to the 90s, and just talks about different stories and people and myths and things like that. And she just finished up a 10-week series, so a 10-episode series about Polly Platt, who was Peter Bogdanovich's wife when they made The Last Picture Show, and then he cheated on her with Sybil Shepherd, and they got divorced. And what the podcast aims to do, and I think it does it extremely well, is show how incredible of a person Polly was, how, not even incredible, just like complex she was, how great of an artist she was, and how mistreated she was by the Hollywood system because her husband took all the credit, or her ex-husband took all the credit. Where, like, she's the reason The Last Picture Show got made. Like, Peter Bogdanovich didn't even want to make it. He thought it was stupid. Like, he literally read the book and was like, I don't get it. And Polly Platt was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever read. We're going to make this movie. You're going to direct. I'm going to, like, produce it. I'm going to write it. And we're going to make this incredible movie. Then they did. Then he was like, yep, I made that movie. That was me. Wife? Who? I don't have a wife. But it's just an incredible look at like Hollywood, at this person's life, and just sort of the ups and downs of what they went through. And I think Karina Longworth is such an incredible storyteller. And she gets interviews with like Polly Platt's children, different people in Hollywood, like Cameron Crowe, Amy Pascal, just all these different people. And you get a really good sense of who Polly Platt was, especially because Polly Platt was in the midst of writing a memoir before she died in 2010. And the memoir isn't finished. The memoir ends in the 90s after she helped get Bottle Rocket made. And without her, Bottle Rocket would not have been made, and Wes Anderson would not be a director, or like as well known as he is. Like that's her contribution to cinema. Like that's just one of the things she did for cinema. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's so good. The last episode came out. I was driving home like almost in tears listening to it. It's so poignant. It's so well done. If you have 10 hours, I highly recommend it. You Must Remember This. Polly Platt, The Invisible Woman. That's the name of the series. Incredible stuff. And so,
I'll definitely check it out.
sorry?
I'll definitely check it out. It sounds interesting.
It's on Spotify, right? Podcast now.
Yep. You Must Remember This. Karina Longworth. Now we're going to get into the bad. So, as I mentioned earlier, I moved into a new place recently. And one of my roommates, her family is over. And we were talking, and my roommate goes, "Hey, you know the Kissing Booth 2 came out?"
Oh
I was
God.
like, "The what?" And she went, "The Kissing Booth 2 came out." And I
He
was like,
did
I've
it!
never seen the first one. And she's like, "Well, we got to watch the first one." I was like, "Okay." So we watched The Kissing Booth.
Best movie ever made.
Period. That's it. Like, I mean,
Don't you love when she basically basically kind of like, I wouldn't say rape, but kind of like molest somebody without them knowing?
So, okay, here's my thing about The Kissing Booth, right? So first of all, it's based off of a fan fiction, basically.
isn't it like a Wattpad fanfiction?
Wattpad, that's what it is. I was trying to remember the name of the platform. Yeah, that's what it is. And the first movie is like, it's the horniest movie I've ever seen. It's one of the horniest movies I've ever seen. Any excuse they can find to get a guy shirtless or a girl in their underwear, they're doing it. They're finding that way, man. They're just going for it. And it just does not understand how like humans speak. Also, while they're in high school, or how they react to things. And the main character is so passive. Joey King's character is so passive, like doesn't do anything, and things just kind of happen around her. I don't know, man. It's just a train wreck of a movie. It's so horribly made. The romance doesn't make any fucking sense. It's just so, and the editing is so obnoxious. And they like have rules. They have like friendship rules that literally exist just so they can like just so they can explain why characters do dumb shit that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just an awful movie, right? But it's like inoffensive. Like, it's a
fun.
terrible movie. But like, I don't know. It's not like harming anybody. It's just real trashy. Also, it's way too long. It's an hour and 45 minutes. Could do it an hour and a half.
The weird thing to me was that I looked on Letterboxd. Judging from Brandon and Landon's reactions to when you said you watched it, I'm the only person that hasn't seen it now. Like, the majority of reviews on Letterboxd are what, half stars? Same with the second one, and we learned we're getting a third one. I don't understand.
I haven't seen Kissing Booth 2, but
I'm watching tomorrow.
So I have seen Kissing Booth 2. I watched that last night. So the first 30 minutes is trying really hard to be 22 Jump Street. Where they're very aware that they're just doing the first movie again. And they're pointing it out to you. And they're like, "Hey, viewer, you love the first movie so much. Do you remember beat for beat, line for line, image for image exactly what happened in the last movie? Here it is again, but we're pointing out that we're doing it." And you're like, "Please stop. I want to die." Like, if I wanted to watch the first movie, I'd watch it. Then they're like, "Okay, we're done with that now. Now we're gonna move on with the plot." And you're like, "Oh, cool. So what are we doing? We're doing the first movie again." "Oh, are you gonna point out they're doing?" No. We're just doing the first movie again. Like, no one learned a lesson from the first movie. The same mistakes are happening again. Like, it's literally the same shit again. And then they just so the way I thought about it was like, Kissing Booth 1 is the first 40 minutes is setup, right? The first 40 minutes is setting up the dominoes of like different relationships and friendships and whatever, the sexual tension. And then the last 45 minutes is pushing down the dominoes, seeing the effect, right? Kissing Booth 2 is like an hour and a half of setting up dominoes. Because there's so much useless bullshit in this fucking movie. There's so much useless shit in this fucking movie for no fucking reason. and then they just like crunch like 20 minutes of drama at the very end, where like every single thing that's been foreshadowed in the movie, very obviously foreshadowed, happens in like the span of 24 hours. Like everything falls apart, and then they have to build it back up in less than a day, and like everything has to be okay at the end. And you're just like, what the fuck is happening?
Does somebody unconsensually kiss somebody in the kissing booth too?
I mean, it's a kissing booth, so yes.
Okay.
But
I'm looking
there
at the
is a
cast.
very dramatic on-stage kiss at a DDR championship.
Are you kidding me?
There's a DDR
And you're
championship
complaining
where
about
they
this
don't.
movie?
Sorry?
You're complaining about this movie and they have a dramatic kiss at a DDR championship? And you think this is a bad movie, Sam? Are you kidding me?
Okay,
Fuck you. You're
so
just mad cinema's progressed past the need for editing and good direction. All we need now is DDR.
okay, there's literally this whole there's like a whole sequence where like one of the like the main character is like, she's like, Joey King is like in the office for some reason, and she sets her bag down on top of the intercom as another girl is showing her a picture of a hot guy working out, and she proceeds to spend like 5 solid minutes describing how hot the guy is and how she wants to have sex with him over the intercom, and everyone can hear it. And her friend is like, oh no, I gotta go stop it. And it's this super dramatic, over the top sequence of him running through the school, falling over everything, slipping, falling, slow motion jumping, like the fucking works. And they keep having this setup. They keep cutting back to a shot of a dude in a fucking tiger mascot outfit walking with a cake. They do it like 5 times. You're like, okay, he's gonna hit the guy with the cake. And you think it's gonna be super dramatic. Like after like all these slow motion, dramatic, over the top shots, he just like bumps into the guy. He's like, oh, sorry, and then keeps running. Like it's like, man.
That's funny.
God.
It sounds terrible.
So the problem with the Kissing Booth 2 is that it is just the first movie again, and therefore it's worse. But it's 20 minutes longer. Okay, Kissing Booth 2 is literally the same length as Parasite.
What?
It's the same length as Parasite, and it gets less done.
Better.
Oh my god, it's almost
It's 2 hours and
15
12 minutes.
Jesus.
And it does less with the running time.
I'm looking at like the cast here. I've only heard of Joey King because she's in every bad horror movie that comes out, and Molly Ringwald because she was like in The Breakfast Club. That's
Molly
all I know.
Ringwald, dude,
I'm blanking on everyone else's names.
She's only in these movies so that the teenage girls watching, so the parents watching with their daughters, or their teenagers. I don't want to act like men are watching this. Can be like, oh, I know who that is, and she can be like, hi, here's a solution to the movie, and you're like, oh, thanks, Molly Ringwald, appreciate it. And then she's gone. You're like, all right, I guess that happened. Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Every other names I'm blanking on.
Also, the second movie tries to have a subplot with a gay couple that was like hinted at in the first movie, and then the second movie they make it like a coming out story, and it's really weird because I feel like we're past that point. If that makes sense.
This movie sounds like Wet Hot American Summer if it was taking itself seriously.
The movie is taking itself seriously.
Sounds
like
like
whenever it has to get to the dramatic points, it's like so serious. It's like deadly serious.
Sam, have you watched Secret Life of an American Teenager?
I really haven't. Oh, wait, no, I have. I've seen episodes.
Okay, it's like it has that same energy. It seems like it has, because like the first Kissing Booth has that energy.
So okay,
like family shows.
I compare the Kissing Booth to like a Disney Channel movie, but if it was really horny.
Well, no, that's why it's the ABC.
So like a Disney Family, or like an ABC Family original.
ABC Family original movie, or like a really bad Disney Channel original movie, like a low tier.
you guys ever see the clip from Secret Life of an American Teenager where she's like, "I'm such a whore," and he's like, "You're my whore."
No.
That's literally the dialogue.
Oh my God, you guys ever
movies,
seen?
though. That's literally the dialogue in these movies. Is them acting like they're all cool and friends and buddies, and they're just like, they say shit that like no child has ever said. Like no child has ever said this at any point in their life. It's just, oh my God. They're a trip. They're really fun to watch with other people, though. I'll give it that. If you're with a good crowd, it's a pretty fun time. You can just rip on it. But I can't recommend it on any other level. It's just, yeah. Kissing Booth 1 and 2, not great. I'm kind of sad that I wasted my time watching them. I'm not gonna lie.
Are you gonna watch Kissing Booth 3? You have to.
I have to because Kissing Booth 2 ends on a cliffhanger. Because Kissing Booth 2 has this one question throughout the whole movie, right? I don't want to spoil it in case you guys aren't going to watch it. But they have like this one question that's like, what decision is she going to make? And then the movie ends with, okay, she's going to make a decision, and then it ends. And so she's going to make that decision in Kissing Booth 3 in 2021. You're like, bro, the only reason I watched this movie is to find out the answer to this decision.
I find it crazy how they filmed Kissing Booth 2 and 3 in the span of like a month.
I'm also
it's
not
kind of
surprised. With the quality, I'm not surprised.
It's kind of insane, honestly.
You guys are just mad.
I am mad. But I'm also recommending you watch it, but go in knowing what you're gonna get.
I have no emotions because I don't plan on watching it.
You should. They're fun.
Adam, get fucking shit-faced and watch it. It'd be a great time.
That might be the best way then, yeah.
There you go. But I'm done. I'm out. I've had it. I'm all set.
Who's
I'm gonna
next?
watch at least until 2021, until when I recommend Kissing Booth 3 for episode.
We gotta do the retrospective. We gotta do the trilogy.
We gotta do the trilogy, man.
They're all connected.
They're all connected. It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Exactly.
The Kissing Booth Cinematic Universe.
Read my
You
mind.
think Kissing Booth 3 will like cross over with All the Boys I've Ever Loved?
Yeah.
3?
That, honestly, not the worst idea. That's not a bad idea.
Also sucks. And I'm tired of people pretending that it's a good movie. I'm sick and tired of people thinking To All the Boys I've Ever Loved is a good movie. I hate it. I don't get it. Kissing Booth is a better movie.
Landon, do you know that Noah Centineo wrote, directed, and edited the
Yes, I do. You don't have to bring this up.
No, I get it. There's three different. It's the Kissing Booth, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and Sierra Burgess is a Loser. I've never seen any.
Perfect Date. Perfect Date.
They all came out in the same year and on Netflix.
Adam, The Perfect Date.
Oh God, I forgot about that too.
That's the one Noah
There's
Centineo.
so many.
It's his Roma, dude.
Exactly. It's his Hedwig and the Angry Inch, because John David he wrote, directed. John, yeah. What's his name again, Sam? It's
John Cameron Mitchell.
John Cameron Mitchell. It's his, yeah, because John Cameron Mitchell wrote, directed, and starred in Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And Noah Centineo wrote, directed, and starred in The Perfect Date.
Oh my God. Oh.
Ooh.
I'm out. I'm good. Tapping out.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. What else has everybody else been watching?
Okay, I only have one thing. So like, I'll just tackle that. So basically, all right, let me set the scene. 2 weeks ago, I'm just roaming Disney Plus, seeing what's around, what I can watch, something interesting, maybe something about one of our founding fathers.
Oh no.
So
No.
scrolling Disney Plus, and then I see in the corner of my eye, Lin-Manuel Miranda, his little lip. He's just there. I'm like, wow, you know what? I forgot Hamilton's on Disney Plus. So I waited for my girlfriend to come, And I'm like, guess what we're watching tonight?
That's what we're
He's
watching.
like, what? What are we watching? And then I just turn my TV on, and Lin-Manuel Miranda's like, I'm patiently waiting, I'm passionately smashing.
And then Angie just walked out.
She left. She leaves.
She's just
It
like,
broke up
oh,
with
I
you.
got a thing.
That's where you have to be at. Like, it's gone. But yeah. So we watched all 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh my God. Are you
Oh my
kidding me?
God.
It's 2 hours and 45 minutes?
2
Jesus.
hours and 5 minutes of Hamilton. And it is an out-of-body experience unlike any other. Because it's the entire stage musical. All right? It's the entire stage musical, both acts, all the way through. And I will say, in its defense, the musical. There's music in it. Look, I for a long time I was a Hamilton apologist, but now that I've grown, I've learned more. I can see that's very problematic. But I can say, excluding Lin-Manuel Miranda and all the historical context, which again that's problematic in itself because like it's a story about historical figures. The music, some of the music is good. I think the story, if you remove all the historical context from it, is good. All the themes are really good. But there's still a lot of cringe in it, a lot of bullshit. And Lin-Manuel Miranda I don't want to say he's like, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. He's not a good person. I don't like him.
How's David Diggs?
He's great in it.
Okay.
But he plays Tom. Oh my God. Okay, I completely forgot about it when I saw the musical and like when I was like listening to it. But like he plays two characters. He plays Lafayette and he plays Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson, they play him as like a cool guy in the second half of the.
Ooh.
He's like a cool guy. He is like a jazz number, and he owns slaves. And they have him doing a jazz number, and he owns slaves. He owns slaves. But he's doing like a little, ooh, I'm coming back to New Orleans. I'm coming back to America. But he's doing jazz, and it's like, what are you doing, Lynn? Like, also, in the second act, beginning of it, he comes back to Monticello, and he's like, oh, Sally, be a dear and give me my letters. Sally Hemings, the woman who he raped, and like, yeah. He's like, oh, Sally, and Sally's like, sure, Thomas, sure, I'll get to your letters. That's the woman who he sexually assaulted. He gave her like 6 kids. 6 kids. She had 6 of his kids. And
I don't like any of this.
And it's like, oh my God, like what's happening? Because like the first act of the musical, I enjoy it. I actually enjoy it. I think it's very fun. But the second half of it, it's just so much cringe. And like, there's just so much. And there's like, because again, it's kind of, because I think there is artistic merit to Hamilton. As I say it, it sounds weird and sounds bad, but there is some art, like there's a lot of really great performances in it. Like, and Hamilton gave a lot of opportunities to actors like David Diggs and Renee Lee Goldsberry, who would not have gotten films like Blind Spotting without Hamilton. Because without Hamilton, we would not have gotten Blind Spotting made. Mm-hmm. So in that weird way, we can thank Hamilton. But it gave a lot of opportunities to actors of color, which is like really great and everything. But I just think it's done so much more harm and given so many neoliberals the opportunity to feel better about themselves. But it's not it. But I can recognize some of the songs are good. A lot of performances are good. Yeah.
I might watch it. I don't know.
Watch it, please. Watch it.
I don't have the patience. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes. If you told me it was an hour and a half, I would do it. But it's 2 hours and 45 minutes? Are you kidding me?
Landon could watch Suspiria again in that time.
Yeah, I could watch Suspiria again. And then probably like, Suspiria is like 2 hours and 30, right?
That was 40. Is it 30?
Yeah, 2 hours and 40.
Oh, okay. Well, I could watch like Suspiria once and then 5 minutes the second time.
5
And then watch the intro with Chloe Grace Moretz.
I will defend that intro to the day I die.
Oh, it's great. I'm not shitting on it. I'm with you. I'm here for it.
I think, okay. I'm gonna recommend Hamilton.
Please don't. No.
I'm gonna recommend it.
You know, I don't want to, Brandon. I don't want to call you out. Okay, I don't want to. I don't want to claim things that may not be true. You've been recommending a lot of Disney Plus exclusive content. I don't want to say your check's in the mail.
No.
Say you've been bought out. It's just suspicious. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm
We
saying.
don't want to point fingers. We don't want to point
All I'm gonna
fingers.
say
I don't want to
that-
say there are some mouse ears above you right now. I don't want to say
Look.
that.
all I'm gonna say is that these O2 errors don't pay for themselves. You know what I mean?
You know, sometimes you just gotta, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I need my extra soul support, honestly.
Gotta hustle.
Look, all I'm gonna say about Hamilton is that there is stuff to like in it, and like, and I know because I talked about this with Samantha before, Landon's friend, Landon's other, like he used to live with her. We've talked about it before, and she likes Hamilton, right, Landon? She's like a fan of it, but she can recognize how problematic it is, and I'm kind of on the same wavelength as her. But at the same time, because I used to love it, but now I'm like, oh my God, I can't get past all of the. Also, there's so much historical inaccuracies in it. Like, there's so much shit that just did not happen. And like, I read the book after I listened to it, and it's just there's so much bullshit. And it's just like 2 hours of like Lin-Manuel Miranda jerking off Alexander Hamilton. He's like, oh man, this guy. So he like it's just 2 hours, like 2.5 hours of that. And it's just like so. It's just it. Also, I think I mentioned it before. The life and death of it's the haunting of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Have you guys ever heard of it? We talked about it.
We talked about it.
Brilliant, masterpiece. It's incredible. But yeah, I'm sure like it's just like it tells a story of like Lin-Manuel Miranda, like kind of coming up with the idea of it, and like it poses it as like a haunting of historical figures in the past, of especially people of color who have like been like, look, Lin, don't do this. But he's like, no, I'm gonna make history.
When will that be coming to Disney Plus?
Hopefully soon. I don't know. I'll give up all my Disney Plus checks for
the production costs.
Yeah, all of it. I'll give up my O2 airs.
Oh my God.
But also, I'm starting to watch Euphoria again and Succession. Both really good.
Euphoria starting off is kind of rough.
I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it is. I think it is a little bit rough, but it picks up a lot. Like
Yeah.
also,
I think it's the second episode. The second episode where it follows the bully is just so incredibly corny.
Yeah.
But
I think also
everything else is great.
The McKay subplot, I think it's useless.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet today, and it kind of was so true. It's like McKay subplot's basically High School Musical. If Troy was black, played football.
It's true.
It's true, yeah. Yeah. Congratulations to Zendaya. She just got nominated for an Emmy for that, which is kind of insane. Making it out of Disney prison. Love to see it. But yeah, that's all I watched this week. Who wants to go next?
I can go. I've got some stuff to knock out. Since we last did what we've been watching, I watched 10 things. I'm gonna run through them. I got to take too long on any of them, except for a couple which I want to talk about. So a couple of weeks ago, hat, shirt, baseball's back. It started up last Thursday, and so in preparation for that, I did another baseball marathon, second month in a row I've done one, just to knock out some stuff I hadn't seen yet, and also to hit 40 baseball movies, which was kind of my milestone. So I didn't watch anything great, unfortunately. I started out with 50 Summers, which is a documentary that was originally screened in, I think, 2018 and released on digital this year. It's about the Omaha Royals and their 50th year. It's fine. There's not a lot in there that's, I don't know, super compelling. but they did talk to Parney from the Rich and Flying Squirrels. Talked about the Flying Squirrels a lot, so that was a plus to see kind of our area represented in there. I watched the Seattle Pilots Short Flight into History, which is kind of I guess the word for it would be like indie documentary. It was released on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. I don't know if it was released on YouTube. But the Seattle Pilots existed for 1 year in '69. And it was just kind of a team of cast-offs and super young guys that played at a stadium where that was so run down and problematic that like one dude got stuck in like the porta potties overnight one time and no one found him until the morning. Yeah, I'm going through these fast. Knuckleball was the next thing I watched, which is a documentary that follows Tim Wakefield and R.A. Dickey, who were the only two main knuckleball pitchers in Major League Baseball at the time. This was made in like 2012. They both retired. It's fine. Tim Wakefield's the far more interesting story, but I don't know. Like that one especially was kind of difficult to get through. And then speaking of difficult to get through, I watched Major League 3, which is called Major League Back to the Minors. Okay, so first off, the original Major League is one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's my favorite baseball movie of all time. It endlessly rewatchable.
Field of Dreams?
They go back and forth. They switch with me, but I think at the end of the day, Major League is, slightly. Okay, you want me to say this real quick? Okay. So
Don't
per the chat here on Zoom.
Don't actually say it, Adam.
Okay. I wasn't reading it because I was talking and distracted. Okay.
He did. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. I mean, you can say it when I'm done, Brandon.
Yeah, I got you. Just wanted you to make
so
sure.
Major League 3, I think the only two people that there's three. There's three people that come back. Corbin Burnson, Dennis Haysbert, who of course is now the All-State guy. He was in Heat. He was in the original Major League movies as Pedro Serrano. And there's one other guy that came back that I can't remember. But it's fine. Scott Bakula's the lead in that movie. Major League 2 isn't as bad as everyone says it is. Major League 3 is kind of a slog to get through. Bob Uecker is back as the broadcaster. He's funny, and that's about it. I could barely tell you anything that happened in the movie now that it's been 2 weeks. And then right before we did our Wimpy Kid whole marathon, I watched Solid Gold, which is the short film by the Safdie brothers that they made in like 2012. So from that date, I can only assume that Adam Sandler was yelling on the phone around the corner somewhere. It's pretty good. It's kind of a precursor to, I don't know if any of you guys watched their Goldman v. Silverman short film earlier this year. It's kind of a precursor to that. Benny Safdie's Goldman again. Not very memorable, but it's you can kind of see where they were going with their stuff, and that's kind of reflected in the stuff they did later.
Before you continue,
I
have a question. You keep bringing up these baseball movies you've watched, but watch Everybody's Hero. I bring it up every single fucking show, and you still have yet to watch Everybody's.
No, I've seen it. I saw it like 10 years ago.
I want you to watch it again. Fresh eyes. That's my next recommendation. Everybody's Hero.
Honestly, okay. I hope it is. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of hope it is.
But before I continue, Brandon, did you want to say your thing?
Yes. So I forgot to mention it, but the common misconception is that Alexander Hamilton did not have anything to do with slave trade, but he did sell them on behalf of his father-in-law. So all you libs out there who are like, oh, we can watch Hamilton because he didn't have slaves. Fuck you.
No. That's important. And then, so this was after the Wimpy Kid thing. I watched The United States of No, which is a 20-minute documentary that Red Letter Media made in like 2005 5 or 6 after Revenge of the Sith came out about how stupid the Vader scream at the end of that movie is, and they're just interviewing people. I thoroughly enjoy their channel and content, so it appealed to me. I don't know how much it would to someone who's not as familiar with their stuff.
So
Brandon, I know you've watched them, but
Who?
Brandon, I know you've watched them, but I'm not sure about Landon or Sam.
Who is this?
Watch Red Letter Media. I think they're hacks.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't watch Half in the Bag that much. I do watch Best of the Worst, just because
Yeah.
I want to see what the fuck they find. And have you watched the most recent Best of the Worst, Adam?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was great.
The Wheel of the Worst,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
had the what is it? The art interpretive dance video.
Yeah, that was I
So-
didn't like that. That was the most annoying thing I've ever seen.
So that wasn't annoying to me. That video literally gave me anxiety and like made me scared
That
to
too.
be in my home. Because
Honestly,
I know you guys may not be big fans of Red Letter Media, and I understand. But just watch the most recent Wheel of the Worst, where they have this clip of an art piece, like an art short film, experimental, where it's just a droning like organ sound and people making noises and moving in weird ways.
Oh,
Meredith Monk.
Suspiria.
Imagine
Meredith Monk
Suspiria, but
Turtle
like
Dreams, I think it's called.
scarier.
Okay.
Imagine Suspiria, but like less pretentious. Sorry, more pretentious.
More pretentious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's called Turtle Dreams.
It's like Turtle Dreams or something.
Let me say I don't have a problem with the people at Red Letter Media. I have a problem with the fans of Red Letter Media. I feel like a lot of the fans of Red Letter Media take on their opinions and opinions of Red Letter Media and will defend them until the day they die.
Mr. Piggy reviews are
Is the main reason a lot of the hate train. I think it's Red Letter Media and Angry Joe are like the two reasons why this discourse for The Last Jedi has continued this long, because they thrive off of it. And it just
also like Angry Joe's actually like a terrible
yeah.
person and YouTuber. Like I hate him. I think Red Letter Media actually like they do mean well a lot of the time, and they actually have a lot of good points. But I do agree they do instigate a lot and like have a lot of role. They have a big role in it, like lasting this long.
Yeah.
Mr. Plinkett reviews are fun, but people take them to heart too much. Like people like really, and I say this as someone that used to do that. Like in high school, I was like, yeah, I'm a Mr. Plinkett Phantom Menace, like that. He's so true. They're so right about that. And then I was like, maybe a lot of it's just a joke. Maybe a lot of it's just supposed to be funny. And then you just kind of like I literally never watched the Mr. Plinkett Last Jedi video because I don't care. Literally,
I
don't give a shit.
I watched their review of Last Jedi and I thought it was the most annoying thing ever.
Yep, I watched that too. And I was like,
They don't bring up good points. They just like, it's literally just them making fun of like, or having inside jokes and making fun of like stupid things that don't even really matter to the name. I don't like them.
It's fair.
I will say on a note not related to their reviews, Brandon and I think disagree on this, that I thoroughly enjoy the movie Space Cop they made a few years ago. Brandon, I don't know if you've seen it or not. I don't know if you've watched it in full or just parts, but I don't think it's intended to be good, and I think that's the point. But
I haven't seen it before. I've seen like bits and pieces of it.
okay.
But like I don't think that. I think they're trying to like make a film that's like bad on purpose, but it's actually just bad.
Oh.
Yeah, like it's trying to be satire, but it's like it fails at that even. And like
It's
I don't
no
know.
Kung Fury.
It's
no Kung Fury.
no Kung Fury. Actually, good.
But I enjoy it. But anyway, yeah, I watched. That's the Revenge of the Sith documentary. I've been trying to find that online for I don't know, probably a year, and like I was at work and I was bored, and I'm like, I'll just on a whim, I'll just type it in and see if maybe there's something on Google now, and boom, there it was. So I was able to knock that out finally. And then last week, which was our Wimpy Kid retrospective. I didn't get to these was because I am a grade A simp. I watched a bunch of Anna Kendrick movies again. I'm going to run through these fast so I don't put you guys through this again. And I promise I'm done with.
Adam. Like, it takes much time.
I promise I'm done with simp movie marathons for a while. So first, which no thanks to Comcast internet, I had to break this into 2 days because our internet went out at like 12 for maintenance or some bullshit. I watched Mr. Right, which was released in 2015. In hindsight, it's a little bit problematic because Max Landis wrote it. So I'm not going to talk about that much. I did thoroughly enjoy it. The performances are pretty great, but it is also super problematic looking back at it. I'll wait.
Continue.
Hey, I said I like the performances. I said it's problematic. That's all I got. And then the next day, I don't know if you guys have heard of this movie. It's called The Voices. It came out in like 2014 with Ryan Reynolds.
Nope.
Okay.
Sounds familiar.
So it's one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen. Possibly my favorite Ryan Reynolds performance outside of Deadpool. Maybe. Sorry?
Better than Hobbs and Shaw? Where he's playing Ryan Reynolds, who just watched Game of Thrones.
But okay, so The Voices is about Ryan Reynolds plays a dude who is, I think, schizophrenic was the diagnosis for him. I'm not sure if that was the correct one. And he doesn't take his medication, so his dog and his cat talk to him, and it's very hard to describe it without like actually seeing it. But like, it's for Ryan Reynolds, who has kind of become Deadpool's kind of become his. I don't want to say typecast, but like acting persona, if you will. Like that's what you think of for Ryan Reynolds, and this is pre-Deadpool. He's genuinely unnerving and kind of terrifying at times. And
Adam. Sounds like
sorry?
Have you seen 9 Lives?
I was gonna make a Spacey joke, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to. But it's honestly pretty good. I really enjoyed it, and it left a lasting impression. There's a music number over the
impression, huh?
There's a dance musical number over the closing credits that is out of nowhere, but also pretty great.
Who is Anna?
It's directed by Paul Feig.
Sorry?
Was it directed by Paul Feig?
No.
Well, the dance number.
Shit.
Adam, Sam asked the question.
Sam, what did you ask?
Who is Anna Kendrick in this movie?
Oh, shit. I forgot.
You forgot she's in the movie and you're
That's the reason why you watched it, Adam. That's the reason why you watched it.
Okay, so to inform anyone watching this that might have been misled by Landon, it's directed by Marjane Satrapi. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. But Anna Kendrick and Gemma Arterton are like his co-workers that I'm not going to spoil it because this is something I think
he kills his co-workers and cuts their head off, and they live in his fridge.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for looking at the.
I've never seen this movie. I literally just saw the poster, and I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, pretty much. But everyone's pretty good in it, and yeah, I highly encourage you guys to watch it. It's very entertaining. It's on Prime. So next up for me was that I picked was Into the Woods, which was fine. My Letterboxd review is just kind of a stream of consciousness for the movie. The good parts are Anna Kendrick singing, Chris Pine, who's hamming it up more than I've seen someone do in a while. Billy Magnuson, who's entirely underrated in my opinion. The movie looks pretty good, and the darker take is kind of nice, but apparently Into the Woods has more of a darker take, like the play adaptation, than the movie does, but I don't know the source material, so that didn't matter to me.
How do you feel about the ending or the lack thereof?
In the movie or in
in the movie, because the movie just kind of stops. Like,
But also a
kinda,
point in the movie where you're like, oh, this is where it ends, and then it's like, no, we got 50 more minutes.
Right.
Oh, it's 40, 50 minutes too long.
Right, but they get to the second half and they're like, okay, guys, we gotta kill the giant, and then they like throw the rock at the giant. And they're like, oh, great, the giant's dead, and then the movie ends.
Yep.
And you're like,
Yeah.
what? Nothing was resolved.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
It took me long enough to get through it. At that point, I was just like, oh, okay, and moved on with my life. The music's a bit too chaotic at times. The kid that plays Red Riding Hood, she's annoying. The kid that plays Jack, he's annoying. Johnny Depp is creepy, which is appropriate for his character, but
it's worse in the play. In the play,
no.
It's way more sexual.
I was gonna ask that, and I'm not surprised. Thank God it wasn't like that in the movie. James Corden. James Corden plays the baker, and he also narrates, but he talks about the baker in third person. So he's talking about himself in third person, which makes you wonder why they couldn't have just gotten one other person to come in and narrate.
So he's a Mulch Diggums.
Shit, they could have gotten Josh Gad. That would have been fine. The prince danced with Cinderella for 3 straight nights. And when he's going around trying to find the right person, he thinks it's one of Cinderella's sisters at first, since she fits the shoe. And I'm like, you're telling me he danced with her for 3 straight nights and still doesn't know what she looks like? Don't use that logic.
That's the movie's logic. What do you mean, Adam?
Well, okay, it's the movie's
Don't
logic.
use the movie's logic that explains to you.
But it's mildly entertaining, but also forgettable and way too long, and I don't remember much about it. So
I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah,
it's not about Into the Woods.
I'm sure it's not.
Did you watch Up in the Air?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And did you watch Twilight movies?
No.
Okay. So first question, you don't have to answer them in order. What did you think of Up in the Air? And well, to all 3 of you, I guess. What did you think of Up in the Air? And why didn't you watch the Twilight movies, Adam? You can answer which one of you want first.
Okay, I really liked Up in the Air, first off. I did really like that. Why didn't I watch the Twilight movies? Why haven't I yet is because I've never had a desire to watch them. And also because I didn't have time that week for 5 movies because I was going back to work and I wasn't going to pack, all those into one week.
Okay, so hot take, the first Twilight movie probably is like one of her best movies. Probably one of the best movies she's ever been in.
Would you say
performance-wise or movie-wise?
Sorry, wait, Sam, what did you say first? Sorry.
Oh, well, I was going to ask, would you say the first Twilight movie is the best out of all the Twilight films?
Yes.
Okay, so just, interesting thing. The only Twilight movie directed and written by women.
Yes.
Interesting.
Because it got popular and then they gave it to a man.
It's almost like what happened with 50 Shades of Grey. Interesting.
Was the first movie that good for 50 Shades?
It's good.
It's
not
better than the others.
Yes.
They tried with the first movie.
Yeah, they actually tried with the first film.
Yeah, because what I was asking is, did you mean performance-wise or just movie as a whole-wise?
Movie as a whole, I meant. Yeah.
Okay. And actually, I'm kind of not done, but I'll get there.
Okay, sorry. I just want to know what they thought of.
No. That wasn't me being sarcastic and rude. I meant I'm not. I'll clear it up. Just
okay,
give me a few minutes. But go ahead.
No, I just want to know what Landon and Sam thought of Up in the Air.
Well,
Huh.
when I watched Up in the Air for the first time, it was last year, and I was dealing with the pain of losing my wisdom teeth. So I don't remember a lot about it. I just remember thinking it was fine, and I want to rewatch it.
I was gonna
I
make a "you were
probably
up in the air on painkillers" joke, but I'll refrain.
watched it like 4 years ago and I enjoyed it.
You know, it was nominated for six Oscars:
Yep.
Really.
Best Picture, Best Director, and Anna Kendrick's only Oscar nomination, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I did not understand. I was like, why? I didn't understand.
But
Like,
speaking of nominations, I watched one other thing of hers that she was nominated for an Emmy for like 48 hours ago, which was first I have doomed us all because I downloaded Quibi. But I watched Dummy over the course of like a day, and it's fine. It's more entertaining than I imagined. It's not absolutely terrible. It's pretty genuinely funny in parts and also forgettable in parts. It's fine. But that's all I got. But unfortunately, downloading Quibi made me interested in several other things that are on Quibi, which the ones off the top of my head, the Blackballed series about the NBA, and Donald Sterling's the main point of that, right?
yeah.
Okay. And the series where Idris Elba and Ken Block race a bunch of cars and stuff, that looked interesting as well. And then after that, I started watching Love Life on HBO. I am 6 episodes in. It's pretty good. There's actually some really good moments. There's some great acting. And yeah, that's all I got. The only other thing I've been watching is, for whatever reason, I got hooked on Spider-Man YouTube poops from the original trilogy. And that made me want to watch the original trilogy again, since I haven't seen them in like a decade.
Great
So I think I'm
movie.
going to do that.
Spider-Man 3 is actually
Yeah.
kind of great, and people need to
Yeah.
stop shitting on that movie.
I remember liking it because I like the Green Goblin's hoverboard. But I'm going to rewatch all 3 next week to see if they hold up, which I think they do.
No, Spider-Man 3 is actually kind of like, it's better than any of the Far From, like the Home series of movies. And I'll stick by it.
I understand it. Like, I'm not gonna fight you on it, but I don't know.
Sandman, great.
Sandman's probably the best villain in the trilogy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was Thomas
Sandman
Hayden
was the
Church.
whole villain. If he was the only villain in that movie, it could have been something.
Yeah.
Because he's so.
I didn't realize that it was Thomas Hayden Church until yesterday, and I was like, oh. But yeah, that was my baseball marathon, my Anna Kendrick Sim marathon, and I guess that's still that was what I was saying is still going on since I'm not done with Love Life yet. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And
Did you read her memoir?
no, but I want to. I'm gonna, because I kind of want to get into reading those a little bit, and I think I might order that and Joel McHale's at some point, and Simon Pegg's. I think Sam, you told me about that.
Adam, why do you want to read Joel McHale's memoir? Why on earth would you want to read McHale's
I don't know.
memoir?
I watched Community 2 months ago, and I don't know. I enjoy his stuff, and he's also in Dummy for 5 seconds, so there's a connection there. But yeah, that's what I watched over the last 2 weeks.
All right, thank you, Adam. Landon.
You're welcome.
So I decided to kind of try to rewatch a lot of the movies that I watched my year in high school, which was like a very formative year for me, which when I started to like figure out what kind of movies I actually like. And I was like, oh, I'm going to revisit a lot of movies that I was like obsessed with in high school. So I watched Rushmore again. Still slaps so fucking hard. That movie's great. It's one of Wes Anderson's best. And yeah, it's really good. I think there are some problems with that movie, though. It's definitely very reliant on music cues to a point where it's annoying at certain points. And that's something that Wes Anderson likes to do a lot. But I think as he goes on, he gets better at doing it. But especially in Rushmore, it's very blatant that he's trying to be like, oh, you ever hear the Kinks before? We're gonna have 6 Kinks songs in like 30 minutes. Here you go, strap in. But like it's still like a fun movie. I think it's one of his funniest movies as well. And I think because it's kind of like Bill Murray, like prime Murray, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the hardest I've ever laughed in any movie is Bill Murray running up to like a bunch of kids playing basketball. As one of the kids tries to go up for a layup, he just slams the ball out of their hand. And woo, it just keeps on walking. It's so great. But
Len,
yeah, huh?
You can go ahead, sir. Sorry, I have a question for you.
Go.
Have you seen? I was thinking about because you mentioned Bill Murray, and like I was thinking about. Have you ever seen? Because she's in like Lost Translation. He was in Lost Translation. Have you ever seen Marie Antoinette?
I have not.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So yeah, I watched that, love that. And then I rewatched one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. I was kind of scared rewatching it, but I rewatched Punch Drunk Love, and goddamn, that movie is so. I feel like it's a movie that really sticks with me because it's gonna sound weird when I say this, but I know I act like Adam Sandler's character acts in that movie, but a lot of the way, like a lot of like my internal anxiety is the kind of anxious feelings that he's expressing throughout the entirety of the movie. And I think it's a very heartfelt and very kind of grounded but kind of mythical look at like anxiousness and just like this idea of romanticizing somebody and just like helpless romantic in like the perfect sense. And it's so good. The score is so good in that movie. It's Adam Sandler's best performance. Uncut Gems is great. But I think Punch Drunk Love, he is a much more complex character than Howie is in Uncut Gems. Howie is very much he's not one-dimensional, but he's not as complex as Barry and is his name Barry? I think it's Barry. Yeah. Barry Hegan. He's not as complex as Barry Hegan in Punch Drunk Love. And I think Adam Sandler does a really good job at like reserving certain emotions, but then having them overtaken in certain scenes. Also, Philip Seymour Hoffman in that movie, he's in it for like 10 minutes, but every time he's in that movie, he takes this like the scene by its throat and just like strangles it out. It's so good. But yeah, Punch Drunk Love, masterpiece. I love that movie so much.
Best PTA movie to you?
It's my favorite, yeah. I don't know if it's the best, but it's my personal favorite. I think it's best Phantom Thread, but I think There Will Be Blood is kind of overrated. But
I agree. What about Magnolia?
Huh?
Magnolia?
I don't know if Magnolia is overrated.
I think it's
properly rated.
It's too long.
Do people think that's his best movie?
No.
Yeah. So like
no.
I think it's properly rated.
I think it's like his second best movie. I don't know.
I like newer PTA better than old PTA.
How do you feel about Boogie Nights?
Boogie Nights, I like it, but I don't love it. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think he's ever made like a movie that I don't like. I don't love. I love all his movies, honestly. I don't think he's ever made like a movie I don't love.
Yeah. But what else did I watch? I then watched Overlord. Which I actually loved quite a bit.
Yeah, we did it.
I'm not gonna be like the pretentious film snob here.
We did it.
That movie kind of slaps. So I can recognize that it's just like a very straightforward, corny kind of like movie, but it embraces it wholeheartedly, and it does
it so well.
It does it so well. Also, I forget what the lead actor's name is, but he's great in the movie.
It's Will Reeves from Watchmen, right?
Yeah, huh?
Will Reeves from Watchmen, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it is.
Yeah. He's so good in that movie, and
Okay.
The CGI is kind of bad,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
I think it kind of makes the movie better. Do you
It
know what I
also
mean?
really heightens the practical effects.
Yeah, yeah, it
Like
really does.
when they do the
I
practical
think I'm
effects,
gonna
that feels
rewatch it
like
soon.
effective. Sorry, Adam.
Us talking about it's made me want to see it again. I think I might rewatch it next week.
Also,
It's just-
okay. So sorry, I just want to like quick anecdote. I remember seeing that movie in theaters opening weekend, and I saw it with a friend of mine. I think it was Christian. He came on the show last year,
Mhm.
and I saw it with him. And I remember watching it, and I was like, I'm really liking this. Like I'm liking this way more than I thought. And Christian's the guy. He's quiet throughout the whole movie. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't laugh out loud. He's just like absorbing it, right? And I was like, I don't know if he, but I didn't really know that at that point. So I was like, oh my God, does he not like it? Like, am I alone on this? Am I crazy? So the movie's over, and I turned to him and I was like, hey man, like, what'd you think of it? And he's like, might be one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. And I was like, oh, all right.
I don't know about that. I was never scared.
Yeah. But he was like, I love it. Like, it's such a great movie. I was like, oh, okay. Glad we're in
Yeah,
agreement.
those are some things I didn't like in the movie. I don't like when it tries to go like horror, quote unquote, with like its jump scares and stuff, because I was never really scared, but I had a grin on my face every time it like leaned into like the corny, like almost like propaganda nationalistic kind of like ideas I was like trying to go for. It's almost like a satire at
Yeah.
points. I love when it does that.
But
Um,
I also feel like this is another thing my friend pointed out is like I feel like the war sequences are just as scary as like the zombie sequences.
yeah.
Like they're just as intense
Yeah.
and well made and taken seriously. Like him
Yeah.
going through the lab or like the basement is so good. It's so well done.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's also like one of the best video game movies without being a video game movie.
100%. 100%.
It feels like the whole time I was watching, it was like this could be a video game, and this could be getting like an 8 or like a 9 on IGN.
That'd be like a
right now.
Wolfenstein.
Yeah, that's what. Oh
Wolfenstein.
my God, it's Wolfenstein basically. Yeah, I kind of love that movie. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure. I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's one of the best movies ever made, but it's a movie that I enjoy quite a
And
bit.
no guilt, just love.
Yeah, exactly. What else did I watch? I continued to watch I May Destroy You. Still one of the best shows I've watched recently. And I was talking to Brandon about this a couple, like, I think it was last time we did the show, like before the show. But I love how there's certain aspects that have been happening in the background of this show that are starting to kind of merge with the main plot. And I think it's kind of brilliant. There's this whole like underlying news story about how like global warming and just kind of the deterioration of like the earth itself, and it's starting to tie in, and it's kind of brilliant the way that they're tying it in. And the idea of the human race kind of raping the earth, quote unquote. And I think it's kind of brilliant, and I'm excited to see what happens. I'm still on episode 7. I just finished episode 7 a couple days ago.
Did you read the Michaela Cole profile in the New Yorker?
No, I haven't.
Really interesting.
I'm trying to stay away from a lot of things because I don't want it spoiled.
Well, there's no spoilers there or anything. It's really just like about her life and chewing gum and like her
Okay.
inspirations and everything, and like because like it's because she was like she dropped out of like college like a few times, and she was like a poli-sci major at one point, and she was like an English major, and like I don't know, it's very interesting profile. I really recommend it.
There. I think it's in episode 6 or maybe in episode 7. Because the whole show also follows her trying to write one of her books, and it's her kind of rewriting it, and she's reading it in front of like the production company, I guess, the book production company, and it's some of the best acting I've seen, I think, from her, because it's her writing this very kind of like deep, emotional, therapeutic kind of thing, and it's her reading it, and like I can't tell where her character starts and her as a person ends. Do you know what I mean? like I can tell that the show is very personal for her. And like I haven't read the piece, so I don't know how personal it is to her, but like
She talks a lot about it. Really.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's something else. And then I beat on a totally different note, I beat Ghost of Tsushima, and it's a video game that I had fun with. It's a fun video game, but I don't like the story that much. I think the story is kind of bad.
Should I get Ghost of Tsushima or Madden 2021?
Get Ghost of Tsushima.
All
Get
right.
Ghost of Tsushima. Like the gameplay is so much fun. The game is so much fun.
Really?
Later half of the game, like the first like act of the game is just like Assassin's Creed, and I don't really vibe with. But once you get to like the second act and third act, fucking slaps. But it's the story is just so bland. All the characters are so bland. I don't care about any of them except for maybe like the main character, but I don't really like him that much. I don't know. I feel like I've been spoiled by The Last of Us Part 2, where it's just like everything I play until there's a game like The Last of Us Part 2 again, I'm just gonna nitpick. But I had fun with it. I'm probably gonna platinum it because it's an easy platinum. But yeah, I think that's all. Oh. So I bought some Criterions a couple days ago, and there's this movie so these are the Criterions I bought. I bought Wildlife.
Oh, there's a new. Ooh.
I bought Federico Fellini's Marcado.
I was Amarcord. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Amarcord. It's the only Fellini movie I haven't seen. Bought the Three Colors trilogy.
Yes.
And then I
I've
bought
got
a
an
movie
armor cord right here.
And then I bought a movie that it was just recently released in the US. And it's a movie that people have been like touting as like one of the best films ever made, one of the most disturbing movies ever made. I was like, oh, it's finally on Criterion. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna watch it. I bought Come and See, and it's a movie I've been thinking about a lot. It's taken up my mind. It's taken up a lot of like the time that I have by myself, just like reflecting back on what I saw and what it means. And I think it's a masterpiece. It's one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen without like trying too hard to be disturbing. For anybody that doesn't know, it's about the German invasion of Russia during World War II. And it is told through a child soldier's perspective, who is very eager to join like the Russian army, quote unquote. It was more of like militias more than anything else. He was very eager to join them, and it tracks his journey and everything that he sees, and it does a really good. The most disturbing aspects of this film come from the way that it is shot. A lot of the time when you are seeing reactions, you aren't seeing what they are reacting to. It's very much like in Moonlight or in Beale Street, where it's just like you have the camera and you're directly eye to eye with the character. Their face takes up the entire frame and you're just seeing their reaction. And it's so disturbing because not only do you see this kid age so quickly within like the 3 months that this film takes place, like he's such like a pure, like at the beginning of the film he's like this angelic kind of kid, you know what I mean? He has smooth skin, everything's fine, and by the end he looks like this kind of thing. He looks like a grown-ass man, and it's just, I don't know how to explain this movie because there's so much to it. And I think this movie is actually very anti-America, which I really, really like because it was made during the Cold War. And I can see why the U.S. did not allow this movie to come in during this time. And it kind of equates America during the Cold War time to Nazi Germany, which I find really interesting, especially during what's happening now in America when you have these kind of these fascist-like militias that are taking over entire cities and throwing people into unmarked vans and holding them prisoner. So I think it's a really interesting movie, and I think everybody should watch it. And I might recommend it one day. But yeah,
It is
come see it.
number 2 on the Letterboxd Top 250.
Deserves it.
I've been meaning to watch it.
It's been a week. It hasn't been a week. It's been like 4 days since I watched it. I'm still thinking about it. I watched the actor in the movie. I watched like the behind the scenes stuff like the Criterion has, and the kid in it has never been in a movie before, but he is so good. And he like talks about how he's still like, it's not because like it's the director's fault, but it's more of just like the subject matter of the movie. He still like has trauma from it, where like he was put in such a negative headspace at such like a young age where he like still kind of like deals with a lot of things that are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, really recommend it. I think it's a movie everybody should watch, especially now. So yeah.
Damn.
Thank you, Landon, for that.
No problem.
It's kind of hard to transition. Okay, got it. So, in the Cold War, there's a lot of turmoil within Europe and Russia and Berlin and everything like that. And during the Cold War, one of the biggest events that would happen was the fall of the Berlin Wall.
It was a great divide.
It's a great divide. And during that time period, another film, which Sam so kindly recommended to us, the Berlin Wall played a big factor in that film. So Sam, do you want to introduce your film you recommended this week?
Yeah.
Kick ass segue. All right, go ahead. Sam.
So for this week, I recommended a film. I didn't think I was gonna recommend it this soon because I made a video on it in February, which Brandon kindly was so praised it a lot last week, which I appreciate that, and it is the video I'm most proud of making. But I spent a lot of time with this movie because of that video. I spent a lot of times watching it, thinking about it, reading about it, getting super in depth with it. And I thought I was kind of done with it for a while. But then I started listening to the soundtrack again, and I kind of got back in the mood for it. I fell back in love with the songs, with everything. And I was like, okay, if there's ever been a time to watch Hedwig and the Angry Inch, it is now. So I decided to recommend it. And one thing I want to do a little bit differently, because I want to make sure we hit as many points, or we kind of talk about as much as we want to. I want to try to go through the movie plot point by plot point, right? Try to go in order of the events that happen and discuss things as they happen, right? Does that seem okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like kind of funny Zen Review when they do like the plot synopsis.
I was thinking more like Blank Check, because I can start listening to that podcast too. But because they do a really great series. Anyway, Blank Check's cool. We should listen to it. Anyway, so Hedwig and the Angry Inch, to give some context, is directed, written, produced, and starring John Cameron Mitchell, who sort of, along with Stephen Trask, who wrote the lyrics and the music for the film, started off Hedwig and the Angry Inch as an off-Broadway play that was performed mostly in like punk dive bars in New York. But it kind of became this underground hit. It became a big deal. David Bowie came to one of their shows. Like, it was a whole thing. And then in the early 2000s, they got to make a movie that wasn't really a big hit, but has become a cult hit over time, and then got revitalized and gained popularity again in like the mid 2014, 2015, when Neil Patrick Harris performed the role on an actual Broadway version of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And I don't know if he won a Tony, but he performed at the Tonys. It was very nice.
He made out with his husband.
Exactly.
During Candy, what's the song called? Candy?
Sugar Daddy.
Sugar Daddy.
Don't get me started. Okay. But to begin with the film, right? So we have the beginning of the film. which is one of my favorite sequences in the film, which is actually the image that I have here, where after the title sequence, Hedwig just reveals themselves. All like you just get an immediate image of who Hedwig is with this very like reverberating guitar chord just coming in. You have the cape Yankee Go Home With Me, which is instantly iconic, and then she has her first line of dialogue, or their first line of dialogue is don't you know me, Kansas City, I'm the new Berlin Wall, try and tear me down. And then it cuts into the song Tear Me Down, which I think is a great introduction to the movie, and was the moment when I first saw it that I was like, okay, I think I'm going to be into the music. I think I'm going to like it. How do you all feel about this intro? How do you feel about this first song, this introduction of the character? How are we feeling?
Okay.
Okay.
No,
I'll let you guys
say is
answer.
a little bit. I think I'm going to disagree with you guys, but
Go
you
for it.
guys. Okay. So my biggest. I know I'm like kind of jumping ahead. I don't mean to like derail this.
Go ahead.
But biggest problem with this movie is what this kind of opening shows, and it's just the music. I don't really like the music that much. The only song that I really, really love is the second song they perform, and it's the one that tells the story about the Greek gods.
Love.
Yes, I love that song, but I kind of find the music very up its own ass a lot of the time, and I find it kind of bad. I don't know how to. I think it's just more of like my taste, where they're trying to be like this.
Well, sorry to cut you off, but when you say up its own ass, you mean like it's sort of pretentious or like self-righteous, or like what do you mean by that?
I think it's more of just like the way this movie is like I said, I like this movie a lot, but I think because it's a musical, and I don't really love musicals that much. I like a certain type of musical, and I think this falls into the aspect of musical that I don't really love this much, where it tries to use the form of music to tell a story, which I do respect, but it's just not really my vibe. And I feel like they're trying to show that Hedwig and this like punk rock band is like something like they're gonna be like big, and like this Genesis guy kind of like stole all of this from them, and like he's making all these hits now because of Hedwig. And it's just like I just can't imagine these like songs resonating with people, and I think it's because of the narrative style that the songs try to take. I feel like if they try to make the instrumentation a little bit better and like more punk than they try to in the movie itself, like I feel like it doesn't really understand what kind of punk that they're going for. Do you know what I mean?
So I agree that I don't think it's like punk music. Like Tear Me Down maybe, but even then it's not like the music is more rock than punk rock.
Yeah,
right?
that's where I
100%.
was kind of like taken
100%.
aback.
But I feel like some of the songs, to me at least, and of course I think I might disagree on this, I think some of the music is just like totally infectious. Like Wig in a Box, I cannot listen to that song and like not be in a good mood, you know?
Mhm.
Like Wig in a Box is just so like reaffirming and like triumphant and just so like amazing. And then Wicked Little Town I think is so well done. I love the way they do it. And I love the way I love the reprise. That's going way ahead. Wicked Little Town's great. I don't know. Just a lot of the songs really resonate with me, and I think are so well done. But Brandon, Adam, do you have anything to say about that?
Yes. So I understand what you mean, Landon, because I just feel like these are, at the end of the day, they're all the songs in the film are kind of show tunes, and it's kind of personal taste, I feel like. Because
100%.
it's straight off of Broadway. They ripped the song straight off of Broadway or off Broadway, and like I feel like it's more so anything just like, oh, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And that the whole kind of film hinges on that, and your kind of ability to kind of buy into this specific type of musical it is. And if you don't, then yeah, that's. But I don't know. I agree with Sam 100%. I think all the songs are so infectious and are so they get in your head and like you kind of. But also there's a lot of like story behind it. And there's a lot of like subtext like layered within the songs that tell. And like I think that it does a great job of telling the story through the music, and especially you mentioned in the song about the Greek gods, but also in Wig in a Box and Sugar Daddy, and like and also Wicked Little Town. And it's really through all those songs, I think does a great job of telling the story and giving exposition without really just like dumping it all to you. And I just think the perfect example of that is the Sugar Daddy scene where they're in like Berlin and he's just lying naked on the ground, and then he's like following the trail of candy, and he's like, oh my god, like
I love that sequence. Oh my
yeah.
god.
Also the way John David Mitchell or John, I forgot what's his name again. I'm sorry.
John Cameron Mitchell.
John Cameron Mitchell. The way he pronounces Gummy Bears, perfect, incredible.
He had tons
But
of
yeah.
Gummy Bears.
Gummy
Yeah,
Bears.
I definitely agree with Brandon and Sam what you guys have said already, and just like I definitely need to listen to the soundtrack again. I didn't have a chance to rewatch it because I started working like basically the day after we watched it. Like I was finally back working at the radio station and didn't really have much time, but at the same time, like the song stuck with me, the look of the movie stuck with me. There's a lot that stuck with me, and I knew it was going to take me a few days to kind of formulate my thoughts on it. So hopefully they've formulated by now. But yeah, like the songs are really infectious, and it sticks with you is how I'm just going to describe it because I'm trying to figure out another way to do it. But yeah, that's what I'm going with for now.
And well, before you say anything, Linda, I just want to say, like, I think one criticism you had that I think is fair is not being able to suspend your belief that these songs would become so popular, that Tommy Gnosis would become such a big act. That personally doesn't bother me, but I understand that, and I think that's valid. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's valid for that to not really make sense for it to resonate so widely when the songs are so personal. But I also think that's kind of the point. But I understand the criticism. Yeah.
That's why I still love this movie a lot because I can kind of understand where it's coming from. It's just like my own kind of like personal taste, I guess, where it's like, oh, I don't love the music, but I still love the overall story. I love a majority of the characters. That's another problem I have with this movie is there's one character that I think they kind of throw in there and then they just kind of abandon her halfway through.
Who are we talking about?
We're talking about I forget how you pronounce her or their name.
That?
It's like Hedwig's like
Husband?
like backup singer.
Yitzhak.
Yitzhak. Which I think because we're talking about the opening right now, the opening kind of like sets the stage of this tension that they have, and I was like, oh, I'm really drawn into this. I can't wait to see how they explore this more. And like especially after that opening scene when you walk in and you see them like trying on the wig, and it's like this very kind of like, oh, like I can't wait for them to explore their character more. But it's just like I don't know. I feel like they have her in the beginning, or they have them in the beginning, and then like as the film goes on, they kind of take a farther back seat. And I guess it's because it's being told through Hedwig's point of view, and you are seeing their perspective to this entire thing and how they have grown distant to Yetziv or whatever the name is.
Well, like, because like I see what I agree with you in that respect then, because like in the musical, like the actual musical, like they there's this whole like the whole kind of like storyline is that Yadzik is more talented than Hedwig, but she's like she doesn't want her whole thing is like, oh, I don't want her to steal my spotlight, so I'm gonna make her. I don't want her to perform as or I don't want him to perform as a woman, like because she's gonna like kind of take my spotlight. I feel that kind of pushed that to the side in the film, which I didn't really like.
I feel like so I think that is valid, especially like the first time through, and that's a casualty of the fact that the movie, to a certain extent, is Hedwig telling you their life up to the present, right? So it's hard to focus a lot on what's happening in the present when you're still trying to leap back up to it. But I think the second time around on a second viewing, that relationship comes out more, especially when you know where it ends. I think it's still there and still like it's visually there, right?
Yeah.
See it a lot. Like I always think about there's a scene, I'm pretty sure it's right after they sing Origin of Love. And they're lying in bed and Hedwig is having this whole like monologue over the scene, and Yitzhak kind of like looks over in the bed and then like just scoots closer and closer to the edge of the bed to like be away from Hedwig. And that's one of the images that always sticks with me about like showing their relationship, where it is, you know, this is going super into the themes and characters, but I think like Hedwig is a toxic and shitty person for the majority of the film. And Hedwig gains these traits from from their past relationships and is now repeating this cycle and is treating Yitzhak so terribly. And Yitzhak is sort of in a similar place that Hedwig is. This sense of dysphoria, this sense of not being comfortable in your skin and who you are and trying to understand your identity. And yet they are antagonizing each other because of the way specifically Hedwig is treating Yitzhak. And so it creates this really like shitty dynamic that I think is fairly well resolved by the end. But
I once we get there, but like I love everything. Like the last like 30 minutes or so are like just so perfect to me. So perfect. I love them so much. But there's a lot of, for me, there's just a lot of stumbles along the way. I think as the movie goes on, it just gets better and better. And I might like it more the second time watching it because I'll understand the pacing a little bit more. Because there was a lot of times where I was just like, this is very jarring. What is happening now?
Yep.
Like, why are we here? What's going on? But I could see watching it again and like benefiting from a second viewing. But yeah, continue with.
Yeah, well, so we've already jumped over all of the place, but sorry, Brandon, were you about to say something or?
Unrelated note. I'll bring it up later, but it's about Tommy.
Okay, well, we're actually about to start doing that, so perfect. So Hedwig performs the first song. They perform the first song, "Tear Me Down," and so then it's revealed that Hedwig is a part of a band that she formed called the Angry Inch, and they are following closely behind one Tommy Gnosis, who is this like huge, I guess we could say like punk star, emo star, who's just a huge deal. But they stole Hedwig's music, all of their songs he is performing. And so they're currently trying to sue Tommy, and Hedwig's publicist or manager believes that it would look good for their lawsuit if Hedwig like speaks to Tommy, has a photo with him, sort of helps to patch things up, and also show that they have a relationship. So Hedwig and the Angry Inch is following behind Tommy Gnosis's band in this very great detail I love, where they're playing at the Bilgewater chain of restaurants, where it's like this weird seafood chain that always happens to be right beside a concert venue. Like, I love the scene where Hedwig is like giving that monologue at the restaurant, and she's like talking about Tommy, and he's like, yeah, and then I went through all this, and then she like kicks down a door, and the concert's happening right beside them, and she just like yells out
that's
there, taught him everything.
Yeah, she's like he's right there at Busch Stadium, which being a baseball fan that resonates with me, but it's like literally right there. It's just like this blinding light that comes in.
God. It's so good. But yeah, so we get into that. We get into that initial relationship. At the same time, Hedwig begins to describe their life and where they came from. Where Hedwig originally was Hansel, a boy growing up in East Communist Berlin, with maybe a sexually abusive father. It's hinted at, but is maybe sexually abusive, maybe some trauma there.
The extent it's shown is he's just sleeping in the bed with the kid, correct?
Yeah, but
That's the extent that's shown, right?
but the mom
The way
kicked
that
the dad
the
out.
way that the drawings
Right.
Right.
the way that the drawings kind of show it is it's more than just that, and I feel like
Right.
Also, the
when
mom
Hedwig's remembering it,
calls him a pervert. So
yeah.
Anyway, communist East Berlin, not a great time. But Hansel escapes sort of their oppressive life and their sort of gray existence by listening to punk music, or like punk rockers of the time.
Before you go on, my favorite joke in the movie comes during this flashback scene is when we're watching the TV and Hansel says, Jesus says the darndest things.
Yeah.
It's such like a quick little joke, but it's so funny. It's so funny.
So good. But Hansel's growing up listening to like David Bowie, Lou Reed, all of these rock stars, getting into them. And as he grows up, he's naked sunbathing on some crumpled piece of the wall, and an American soldier comes by, one Luther, who initially mistakes Hansel for a girl, but then seems to still be interested in Hansel and his girly boy aesthetic, and offers him some gummy bears, which Hansel very much enjoys. And then Hansel returns back to Luther and finds a sugar daddy, leading into the sugar daddy song, which I'm realizing now I skipped Origin of Love. So because I think I skipped that during one of the flashbacks. But I know we talked earlier that Landon, at least you like Origin of Love. How do we feel about that song and how it represents this ideology of relationships and how they work?
I think you talk about it really well in your video.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to repeat too much what you said in your video because I think people should watch your video because it's actually really, really great. But I love how this one song ties perfectly into the ending and everything it stands for. And just this idea of Hedwig as a character was kind of manipulated and groomed in a sense by Luther as a person.
100%.
And they were told that they have to be female to like cross the border, but like Hedwig's not really concerned about that. They feel more like they are the moon kind of thing, where they are both male and female. They aren't this one this one gender kind of thing. And I think the way that they portray that that idea through the song and the animation as well. I feel like a lot of my favorite songs come along with the animation.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think the way that they use the animation is perfect, and like I said, how it ties into the end. But yeah, that song slaps.
Brandon, Adam, do you have any thoughts on Origin of Love?
Well, I was Brandon. You go ahead. I was just gonna say I love the animation.
Yeah, no, I agree with Len. I really nothing else to add other than that. I mean, I think that I think Len already said it too, but the way Origin of Love ties into like the very, very end of it and like the final scene where like the final animation comes in into like the tattoo. I don't know. I just think that I want to talk about it more towards the end, but like I just think that aspect of like wholeness and finding one's like second self and being comfortable with your own skin is really profound and like poignant idea. But we'll talk about it later. But yeah.
But yeah, I love the animation, and I think it plays into. I mean the themes of the movie, and also just as a song itself, it plays really well into both of those categories.
100%. I think the song is it's such a good build up. I think it's just such like a very chill song that becomes so like intense and very like dramatic. I don't know. I just love that. I love Origin of Love so much. But I think it's also like just like it just cements how mythological and like traditional the idea of like to like finding your other half or your wholeness in other people rather than in yourself. I think is so well portrayed in that scene, and the way Hedwig talks about it is so well done. But moving on, after Sugar Daddy, which does have one of the best jokes in the film, which is the car wash, which is one of my favorite things in the movie. We sort of get more into Hedwig's backstory, where they're dating Luther, and they decide that they're going to get married while they're in East Berlin. And Hansel's mom is like, okay, well, if this is what you want, I'll get my passport. You'll take my name. You'll take Hedwig, and you'll go to the United States. And Luther's like, well, they're gonna do a full cavity check, and they'll know that you're not a woman. Gay relationships in the 80s not gonna work. So we gotta do a sex change operation, which they go to a back alley doctor essentially, and has one of the most disturbing like few sequences of the film, or few seconds of the movie, which is that like zoom out from the doctor's face, and then like the blood curdling scream, and then like the zoom in on the parents as they're like smiling and taking the picture, flashing into Angry Inch, the song Angry Inch, which is maybe the closest we get to a punk song.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like the most punk song in yes.
And I think it's also like, I just love the intensity of it. I love the power of it. I love I don't know. I just love the way that song goes. I love the line 6 inches forward, 5 inches back. Like, oh my God, it's so good. Because sex operation was botched. So Hedwig does not have male genitalia, but doesn't officially have female genitalia either. They have a 1 inch mound of flesh around their crotch, but they do identify as a woman throughout this portion of the film. And so Hedwig sort of sings a song about it, goes super in depth, gets into a pretty sick bar fight at Bilgewater, and then sort of flies off into the next flashback sequence, where Luther and Hansel, or Luther and Hedwig get married, move to United States, and in a couple years, maybe less, Luther leaves Hedwig for a cisgendered gay man. Supposedly, we'll assume it's gay because we'll assume he's gay because he's dating a guy. But immediately leaves Hedwig alone in a trailer in Junction City, Kansas, leaving Hedwig to figure out the rest of their life and their identity and their purpose all alone. Leading into Wig in a Box, which is an incredible sequence. Like, oh my God, don't get me started. I just think it's so... I think the song is so good. I think it's... I love the cinematography and the way it's shot. Like, I feel like the sequence, like the image that sums up this movie is the line where she's singing about how suddenly I'm Farrah Fawcett, and she's like looking in the mirror and she has the hair and she's smiling, she's whatever. And then they like move it a little bit and her face is like distorted. And then she says the line, but then I wake up and I turn back to myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, fuck, man. And then they like deck out the trailer, right, where they have a whole band, they have the lights and everything, and it's so good. And then they have the sing-along part.
Yes.
So like just goes so much into the campiness. Oh my God, it's so...
I don't know if we skipped over it, but I think there's the part where they're at the music festival, which is my favorite scene.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
It has some of my favorite shots in the movie.
Thank you.
Where it's like the wide shot and you have the porta potty like going up the hill, leading to like Hedwig's like built stage, and you have the one. I don't know what it is, but like the interaction Hedwig has with that one fan kind of brought me like teary-eyed. I don't know why.
It's just like, so genuine and intimate.
Yeah. Like her bringing the fan up to the stage. And just like, there's that one scene, because they have this like throughout the movie, I noticed as well, where they'll have like a close-up of a smile. Like the first time you see it, and like most of the time when it's shown, it's showing how Hedwig has power over somebody. Like she talks about this in Sugar Daddy, where she's like, "Oh, like this is the first time I realize I have power, and like I
Thrill of
can
control.
yeah." And I love how right after Sugar Daddy, you have the scene at the music festival, and they use that kind of close up of the smile, and you realize Hedwig now has control, but it's not trying to take advantage of somebody. It's trying to express her deepest kind of darkest kind of history, and it's almost like therapeutic for Hedwig, while also gaining this new fan that as the film goes on, you see her in the background throughout every single performance. It's so great. It's so great. I love that moment so much.
Also, the old guy that she does the car wash to in Sugar Daddy also shows up in the background at her concerts.
Really?
Yeah, that's one of my
I
favorite.
just love how as every concert goes on, you will see a new background, like somebody in the audience with the wig on, or like the fake wig thing on. And it's so good. It's like a small detail, but it's great.
But I think what was I gonna say? Oh well, I guess an important thing to note is that the song "Wig in a Box" is about Hedwig discovering that deciding their new identity is going to be as a punk rock star that they grew up with, and finding solace in music, in creation, in creativity, right? Leading into Hedwig running a band and also babysitting and meeting Tommy Gnosis, where she kind of takes advantage of a minor.
She doesn't kind of. She just kind of does. She does it.
She takes advantage of a minor. Yeah. Takes advantage of a minor.
Also, quick thing too. If Hedwig and the Angry Inch came out in 2020, who would play Tommy Gnosis? Who do you think would play Tommy Gnosis?
Timothy Chalamet.
I was gonna say that too.
Easy.
Okay.
Easy.
I just want to know we all could agree on it. Because there would be no question.
Bro, can you imagine Jesus Freak Timothy Chalamet? Anyway, but Hedwig is performing in bars with. This is a joke that had to be explained to me actually, where she's performing with the military wives who are all Vietnamese, because a lot of commanders and captains in the military, and especially in the 70s and 80s, got married to Vietnamese wives while they were in Vietnam. So that's why they're all Vietnamese. They perform "Wicked Little Town," which I think is a really incredible song and is a really great way of expressing Hedwig's frustration and sorrow when it comes to living in this town. And then Tommy Gnosis is like, I'm 17 and I hate the world, so I relate to this. I relate to the transgender struggle. That's me, white guy, cisgender white guy. And they sort of begin a bond or a relationship of sorts. Also, the scene where they're talking in the bedroom has some of my favorite jokes in the movie. There's the one where, so of course, there's the sequence where Hedwig is describing her operation and like how she came to be who she is. And while she's describing it, the sound like fades out as like the sound of the bomb dropping fades in. And then when she gets to the point, it hits and explodes. And then Tommy's first reaction is, "Have you heard the word of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" And then
she's like, "I'm a fan of his work."
Right. I also love it when he's like going through the music and she's like, "Oh, he loved all this music, Chicago, Asia, Europe, but travel bores me." But they form a relationship where they form a band, and they sort of Hedwig gives a lot to Tommy. Tommy doesn't really give a lot back to Hedwig. Maybe gets a little in his head, maybe gets a little full of himself. But living in a trailer park together, starting to really form their identities, and Tommy is starting to gain his confidence in music writing. Relationship's getting a little bit more intimate, it's getting a little in there. And then Tommy, it's revealed that Tommy really can't get over Hedwig's angry inch, or Hedwig's sort of botched sex operation, and sort of runs away and takes the music with him, essentially. Takes the lyrics, takes the songs, and then happens to be the one that gets lucky and becomes a huge rock star. At the same time, we're going to the present day story, where Hedwig ends up not meeting with Tommy. and instead Yitzhak gets fed up with the situation and with fed up being in the Angry Inch, and decides to join the Polynesian cruise tour version of Rent,
Which is so hilarious.
which the movie really hates Rent. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but it really
Yeah, I was about to say you.
it's really funny. And in Hedwig's sort of final shitty thing they can do, Yitzhak sort of confronts them and is like, "Hey, I'm leaving for the tour. There's nothing you can do about it." And then Hedwig tears up Yitzhak's passport, not allowing them to go and perform and sort of achieve a higher dream or do something different with their lives. The band sort of disbands at this point, essentially, or it's implied that's what's happening. And Hedwig sort of is at their lowest point. Cut to 3 weeks later, they're in a back alley, and who shows up but Tommy Gnosis to pick them up? Please, Landon.
1 second. So one scene that I wanted to talk about that you mentioned earlier was the scene where they're trying to figure out like the song, her and Tommy Gnosis, in the flashback, and Hedwig holds the mirror up to Tommy Gnosis, and you have that moment where you can see that this is Hedwig thinking that Tommy Gnosis is going to be their other half, kind of thing. And I love that scene so much. It's like a small little thing, and it works so well.
And I just love. Go ahead. You're still going.
I love how the mirror starts to shift, and you start to see that Tommy Gnosis is more of just like more obsessed with his own kind of ideas of what he is going to be, and he doesn't see Hedwig as his other half. And I think that's a small little thing that works so well and really like helps the ending in a lot of ways, especially like one of those like last scenes that happens where you have them kind of like confront each other in that musical number. But yeah, I love that scene a lot. And I think I like a couple minutes later, I kind of like lost my love for that scene because it becomes a little too corny for me and too like, I guess, musical-esque, I guess, is one of the words I'm looking for, when you have that moment where they're like kissing and you have like this like backdrop that's very kind of like
I
very
love that
corny.
though. I love that.
Really?
Well, I love it because I feel like it's capturing how that moment feels, right? Like
Mhm.
at least to Hedwig, where you're taking this really cheesy, overplayed song over this super dramatic, like Douglas Sirk looking set, right? Of just like
Yeah.
saturated colors and it's like all glossy and shit. And then just that like cut from like his hand in her pants to like the wide shot where it's like
Mhm.
back to normal inside the camper is so good.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I don't know. It kind of like took me out for a bit.
That's fair. You're good. Yeah. Brandon, did you have something to add on to that?
Same thing, Sam. Sorry.
No, you're
You
fine.
said
You're
it.
good. You're good. I'm afraid I might be rambling too much here, but we're getting
No.
towards the exciting part, where Tommy Gnosis and Hedwig sort of reconnect over a bottle of whiskey, and are driving and are talking about their music and trying to reconnect. Yes.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut
You're
you off.
fine.
But
You're fine.
there's that one shot where she gets into the limo, and it's that wide shot inside of the limo, and you have the mirror on top. It's that shot is one of my favorite shots in the movies.
So good.
So, but yeah, I like that shot a lot.
So good.
But then once again, it's followed by a shot I don't like that much, where the cars look so obviously fake.
Yep.
I
That's fair.
understand what they're trying to go for, but it's another one of those things where I'm like, why? What's going on?
No, you're fair. You're fair. But they're going through their songs. They're playing Origin of Love, and Tommy messes up one of the lines where instead of saying Osiris, he says the Cyrus on the recording because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he's a piece of shit. And this argument causes them to get into a car accident, which ruins Tommy's reputation, and instead bolsters Hedwig's notoriety. I don't know if it boasts her popularity, but definitely her notoriety. To the point where she plays at the Madison Square Garden Bilgewater restaurant. Sorry, Brandon, what were you going to say?
I don't know if we're talking about that point yet, but I just want to know, in your opinion, where does it become like fantasy? Where does the reality end? Where does it become fantasy? I think that's a really interesting kind of like distinction you can make.
Okay, so what I'm about to say will lead into that. But
sorry.
no, you're fine. I appreciate you jumping ahead. We get to Hedwig's lament, which is just Hedwig sort of summing up all of the horrible, like not horrible, but just like the trauma they've been through, the struggles they've been through, the shitty relationships they've been through, as they then perform Exquisite Corpse, which has some of the most like, I don't know, gross and like nails on a chalkboard lyrics. I don't know, just some of that stuff is so good and so well done. And the moment in which I feel like it runs into fantasy is there's this shot, and it's like a split second. It's on screen for like a short amount of time, but it's a shot where the screen is split 6 ways, right?
Yes.
And there's like head, arm, leg, and it's showing how Hedwig feels disjointed and disconnected and divided up between all the different people that she has given herself to and not gotten anything back, not felt whole, right? And I think after that is when she starts smashing the guitar, and it keeps doing the cuts to the relationships in their life and how it affects them. And that's when I think the fantasy begins, because that's also when it cuts to Tommy Gnosis beginning to sing the reprise of Wicked Little Town, leading into Hedwig tearing off the wig, tearing off their clothes, essentially just being in like shorts, revealing themselves bare, wandering into an empty space, which leads to what I think is maybe the best sequence in the film, where Tommy Gnosis reprises Wicked Little Town. And I think half of the song is Tommy Gnosis's apology, and half of the song is Hedwig realizing how harmful their ideology is and sort of how they need and what they need to do to promote self-care and love themselves first. I don't know how you all feel about it, or what your reading of the scene is, or how you feel about it, but I'd love to hear about it.
Want to go first, Brandon?
Yeah, sure. So my first impression, because I've seen it 3 times now. I saw it twice since like you recommended it, and I saw it one time when I was 17. My first kind of impression of that scene was exactly like what you were saying, Sam, and really hasn't changed much since then, honestly. I think that it's more or less Tommy trying to reconcile with all like the harm he's done and all of like the terrible shit he's done. It's also Hedwig doing the same exact thing, and then realizing that they're 2 sides of the same coin, and while they're not each other's kind of like other halves, they can both kind of reconcile. They can both kind of recognize all the bad they've done and move on in the sake of being better people. And like, I don't know, I just think that idea is really, really beautiful all in all. And it leads into Hedwig kind of like that last part where she's like, you know, where they're there like walking into like the empty street or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. That's like, and just the way it's shot too, and the way they use color and like the light. I don't know. I just think it's so beautiful. And John Robert Mitchell. I keep forgetting his fucking name. John Cameron Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
His performance in that scene is like unbelievable. Like he's so good. He's so good.
Just like the look he has, right?
Yes.
Just like the way he looks and the way he starts breaking down. Like the moment that sticks with me so much is when Tommy says the line. Hold on, I have the lyrics pulled up here, so Tommy Gnosis says the line, "You think that luck has left you there, but maybe there's nothing up in the sky but air." And right as he says that, that's when Hedwig starts breaking down. That's when Hedwig starts crying, losing it, and like the facade is falling, you know. This whole ideology is crumbling around them because it hasn't been working. You know, they can't find this other half because they themselves are not whole yet. It's like becoming a reality to them. Just yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It's like, and man, like I kind of like skipping ahead a little bit. Sorry, but like that. Let me spit my gum. I've been chewing gum.
You're good. You're good.
Okay. That whole, it's heartbreaking and like so it's cathartic, but also very very heartbreaking because like that line you mentioned too kind of feeds into that because when Hedwig like when they walk into the street and they walk like naked walk into the street, it's like like you know that they might not find the solace they're looking for, they may not find the resolution they're looking for, like not finding their other half. And I think that's where that ambiguity comes from, and that's what kind of makes the film so beautiful because you never know, like you don't really know if there's any kind of other half. You don't really know. You never have any guarantee about that. But that taking that step is like the bravest part. Honestly, the bravest thing you can do. And that really, I don't know. I just find that idea really, really beautiful. I don't know. And it's really profound.
And I agree with that. I think that was also what I came away with. Like, first, I think the joke I made to Sam after the movie with that final shot is that I'm almost positive, or I'm not convinced that Hedwig and the Angry Inch is not the prequel to the Terminator, because it's like you get it. Anyway, I was proud of that joke. Anyway, but yeah, like, and I think the power also comes from like that. Despite how despite how hopeful that song is, what's it called, Sam? The one that's animated in the middle of the movie about finding your other half.
The Origin of Love.
Yeah, like despite how like hopeful that is, like Hedwig's taking that step, but there's the ambiguity of whether Hedwig finds that or not.
Huh. Okay. So you guys talking about this makes me think that my idea of the ending is really dumb, and it's very half-baked.
No, go for it, please. I want to hear that.
But I was viewing it more from a religious angle, ending, and I think it has to do with like the themes of like Adam and Eve that Tommy Gnosis brings up throughout the entire movie. And I believe there's a point near the end where Hedwig is performing at I forget what it's called.
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. Madison Square Garden. And they run out. And this is gonna sound really fucking dumb.
Go for it.
But this is how I believe that they killed themselves. Okay? This is dumb, but this is how I viewed the film. And I believe this whole section was everything that happened after that was them reconciling with the people that they have wronged in their lives or who have wronged them. After that, you have the scene with Hedwig and Tommy Gnosis, and they have that performance. And then you also have the scene where they all donned in like these white angelic kind of clothing. And you have this kind of angelic or like heaven-like performance that they are having. And the only person that's not wearing white is Hedwig. Because I believe they are wearing the black pants during this time, but everybody else around them is wearing these kind of like angelic robes. And you have them kind of Hedwig's kind of like, what's the character's name again? I keep forgetting the character's name. Yitzhak? Yeah, Yitzhak. Okay. Yitzhak, Hedwig's finally letting Yitzhak be who they are.
Landon,
and then
do you think that I'm sorry for like, getting in the middle of your thing, but like do you think that maybe they died in a car accident?
That could be a thing. I don't know.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Because it's also like the thing when they opened up the door, this might have just like, it was also this kind of like ray of light, kind of like how it was earlier in the film where like they walked through the door and it was just like this kind of pearly gate kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? and you have them, like I said, this is very half-baked, and this is you like trying to express what's happening, or like what I thought was happening while watching it. But yeah, you have that scene, and then it cuts. I think, does it cut back to Tommy Gnosis, or is that when they start walking down the street?
Do you mean at the very end, or?
Yeah, yeah. So is it the white and Tommy Gnosis, or is it Tommy Gnosis and then the white, like all white performance?
It's so they walk into the door that's all white, cuts
Yeah.
to Tommy Gnosis' performance, cuts to, and then the next scene is them performing in all white, and then the movie
Okay.
ends with Hedwig walking naked into the street.
Yeah. So after that, they walk into the street fully nude, and the way that I view that is Hedwig reconciled with all of their past, but they are still doomed to. They have accomplished in loving themselves and understanding who they are and like understanding who they are meant to be. But they are still doomed to kind of wander alone for the rest of their lives, if you know what I mean. But they understand a better kind of sense of being, because when they are wandering into the street alone, it is empty, it is barren, nothing is there, there's no life. And I kind of view this. Was there a car that
There's
went by?
like people, yeah.
No, there are people walking by. Sorry,
Oh,
the reason I
okay, never
remember
mind
that's
then.
a weird detail.
But yeah, I kind of saw it as this kind of thing of purgatory. But yeah, like I said, this is a half-baked idea. But
Well,
Well,
Landon, first of all, Landon, I want you to stop talking shit about your theory, because I think it has a lot to back it up, and it is an interpretation I hadn't considered, but I think it works. I think it makes sense, and it's a much darker take on the movie, but it's valid. I think there's a lot to support it there, because like I always read like that void where Tommy Gnosis and Hedwig are when they're singing with each other. I always felt like that was more like in Hedwig's subconscious. I always felt like that was more something happening symbolically, like a visual representation of what's happening in their mind before, leading into the final performance. But I think that could also be like a purgatory, like you're talking about. That could be just like the
yeah,
brain reconciling everything before death, before moving on.
I forgot to bring this up while I was talking, but like also the lighting during that scene, because you have the kind of like the blue lighting on Tommy Gnosis, who is like this very religious kind of person, and then you have this very like red lighting on Hedwig,
From
and
an exit sign, no less.
view that as like heaven or hell or so on and so forth, and they're kind of like trapped in this argument, and then it's followed up by like the pure white that is heaven, quote unquote.
I mean, because I kind of, because I mentioned like earlier, like I think like 5-10 minutes ago, like that, like I asked you, Sam, like when do you think the reality ends and the fantasy begins? And my interpretation of it, like even then, I thought the reality ended after the car crash.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think of the idea that maybe they died. I just thought that maybe like, it was just in her mind after it. But that makes a lot of sense, honestly. So I kind of like them, I think it kind of makes sense, honestly, them dying in the car crash. Everything after that is a fantasy. And then the whole thing where they're in the void and like maybe Hedwig is like kind of being reborn. They're being reborn when they're walking into the street or whatever. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know. Smart. You're smart.
Oh,
Thank you.
I think I took everything, or for the most part, maybe up right before the very end. Literally, it might have been because I was tired and not thinking about it. And again, a rewatch might help a lot. But I think I took everything, maybe pretty much up until like the all white performance, literally. But other than that, yeah, I can definitely see both of those factoring in.
And the only reason it's difficult for me to accept the suicide theory you have, Landon, or your reading of it, is because I feel like to me, the ending to Hedwig is so positive. It's so reaffirming. Like, my favorite part about the film is how much empathy it has and how much love it has for its characters despite all their flaws, right? And I feel like it ending with this person walking aimlessly with no real direction, but sort of hopelessly, uh, messes with the way I feel like the film is trying to present itself. Of course, that's my reading of it, and that could just be me not wanting to feel bad by the end of the movie, you know.
Mhm.
But I think there is still something there. Like it could be a hopeful walking blindly into the future now, more self-aware, or it could be walking blindly into the void. Maybe you know who you are, but you're sort of doomed to never fully find
Experience.
what you've been looking for. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, I mean, like, I can see all the optimism and everything in the film, but I feel like Hedwig is like a very, at the same time, it's also a very dark film too.
Yes, 100%.
I think there, and you can read into it and think. I think anyone can read into it, come away with the idea that I don't think they're ever going to fully heal from their wounds and
But
from.
yes, 100%. Sorry.
No, that's really it. Because like all the damage that's been done to them, I think physically and internally and mentally, I think it's a lot of it is irreversible. But you can go on the road. You can choose to move past it, and that's what I think they're doing when they're walking into that street. They can choose to kind of move on and kind of like.
I don't think it's moving on. I don't, because what
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
think,
maybe not moving on.
like, like I think,
Move forward.
like what appeals to me so much about the movie is how, despite how awful of a person Hedwig is, right? Like, undoubtedly, Hedwig still deserves love,
Mhm.
right? Despite how damaged they are, they make a very conscious effort to make up for what they've done. And, they're not fully washed of all sins. They're not just done. But they still deserve love. They still deserve happiness. And they're making an effort to achieve that themselves. And again, that's what I love about this movie is that it loves all of its characters. You know, like I think, and I think this might be kind of obvious, but this is something that I found was sort of contentious in some circles. Um, do we all agree that Hedwig at the end is accepting a non-binary identity, where they're not exactly male or female?
Yes.
Yes.
They're just whatever they want. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Because they're just people out there that view this film as anti-trans because they believe that Hedwig at the end is deciding to be male, which makes sense because it is a male actor, and that sort of messes with the messaging a bit. But I think that sort of idea of like accepting who they are and I think another thing that helps the movie to not be fully anti-trans is the character of Yitzhak, who has their own sort of journey, right? Their own dysphoria that is then reaffirmed through Hedwig giving them the wig and letting them go off and be whoever they want to be, of not stopping them, of sort of stopping the gatekeeping, stopping the jealousy, stopping the whatever, and loving themselves first so they can then encourage more people to love themselves. I don't know. I just think it's difficult for me to not read the film as ultimately positive. But again, I've stuck with this theory for 6 months now, and it's sort of ingrained with the way I read it. But that
Yeah.
doesn't make but like the suicide angle is really interesting and does add a whole new layer to it and can make the film seem so different in such a fascinating way.
Because I don't know, just like that whole final performance they have at like Madison Square Garden, like that area, I didn't view it. I viewed it as them kind of having a mental breakdown wholeheartedly.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and like I thought in that like scene, it was like them at their peak mania, and it's just such like I wouldn't say abrupt, but I feel like it's a very purposeful cut that they made after exiting that door. And I think it can be read in many different ways. I like this whole idea that they are in hell, and then they experience hell, which is with Tommy Gnosis, and they experience heaven, which is with Yitzhak.
Yeah.
Yitzhak?
You got it.
They experience heaven with Yitzhak, but at the end, they are in this middle.
No, I think that's I love that. I love that interpretation. I think that's so fascinating, Landon. I really do love that.
But it also can be read that like I don't know, because like these two different characters, you have Tommy Gnosis, who is this very masculine character, and then you have Yitzhak, who is somebody that's very similar to Hedwig, that's been forced into this gender identity, who actually doesn't fully identify as this gender identity and wants to embrace a different side of them. And I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point.
No, you're good. So just two things before we wrap it up. One, what do we think of the song Midnight Radio, the very last song? Like it, dislike it? How are we feeling?
I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did too.
I
have to listen to it again, but yeah, I did. I think I did.
I just love this idea of like, I don't know, this very like weirdly like passionate or like mystical nature of like, like the lone signal on the midnight radio. Like you still get your spotlight, you still get your moment to shine, but it is still like in a, a less sort of like an underground sense. I don't know. I love that. I love that idea. Also,
It was very David Bowie-esque.
yes, 100%. Also, who here knew Yitzhak was played by a woman? So the first time I saw it, I didn't realize Yitzhak was a woman. And when I watched it behind the scenes, they were like interviewing a woman and the thing said Yitzhak. And I was like, wait, what? And I watched it, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. That's how she can hit the high notes. Okay, got it. But that beard, very convincing. That stubble,
Yeah.
very convincing. Do we have any final thoughts, any final words, anything we missed that we want to run back to? Yes, Adam.
So this is more of just like a general observation while watching it than like something that actually has to do with like the plot of the movie. But something interesting that I was looking at some of the IMDb trivia, because something I noticed throughout the movie, which Bilgewater's is obviously not a real chain of shitty seafood restaurants, but one thing I noticed is like each of the locations has like these murals of sinking ships on the walls. And okay, so first that stuff's always fascinated me, like shipwrecks and all that stuff. It's always fascinated me because I'm a history nerd. But so apparently one of the theaters where the play was first performed off Broadway was in the ballroom of the Hotel Riverview. I'm reading on Wikipedia here that says it once housed the surviving crew of the Titanic, which I'm wondering if that's why the Bilgewater restaurant was designed like that, but it's just something interesting I noticed.
In the interviews, they literally were like, "Oh, wouldn't this be a cool thing to do?" They didn't even think about it.
Still,
But it's a
I
great
like
detail. It's so interesting.
I like the look. Yeah.
100%. Anybody else have any other closing thoughts? Any other things to say?
Talking about the movie has made me appreciate it more, but it's still like probably like a 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to rewatch it.
Brandon?
I really love the film, Sam. I've always loved it. I love it even more now after talking to you and watching your amazing video, which is on the channel Rapper. Watch it now. Or each of us will go to one of your family members' houses and beat them up. If you do not watch Sam's video, we will go to your uncle's house with a lead pipe.
God.
You ever seen
Yeah.
The Irishman? We're just gonna recreate the last like hour of that movie.
Exactly.
Um,
Brass knuckles.
so
yeah.
obviously I love this movie. It's a movie that I watched the first time and was really impressed by and really enjoyed. And then every time I've watched it, I've loved it even more. Of course, I loved it enough to make a 30-minute video on that. I just think there's so much going on with this movie. I think it's so intelligently well made. And I think it is a surprisingly compassionate and smart and well thought out film on a topic and a subject matter, specifically gender identity, gender dysphoria, non-binary identification or being, that I feel like wasn't really discussed in the late 90s or early 2000s. I feel like that was still a fairly underground topic. And that's one of the things that really surprises me about the film is how well it talks about that and how well intentioned it is, And it's just a movie that makes me feel good whenever I watch it. That despite the horrible things that happen, like despite the genitalia mutilation, despite the horrible toxic relationships, despite it all, there's still something to be proud of in your identity. There's still something to be proud of in your art, in being you, and you still deserve to be loved, warts and all, no matter who you are. And I don't know, that just really resonates with me. And then you add on, for me at least, a kick-ass soundtrack that's very catchy and very listenable at all times. With a movie that's like really well shot, like surprisingly really well shot for a first-time director, like damn. I don't know. It's just an incredible movie. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, as Brandon said, I have a 30-minute video that I'm very proud of that you can watch on the Rapper Raptor channel. Where I talk more about gender identity and origin of love. Yeah, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's kind of a badass, fucking amazing movie that I'll be watching for the rest of my life.
Oh, I forgot to give my star rating. I completely forgot about that. I'll just do that really fast. So first of all, looking at 2001, it's no Rush Hour 2 or Spy Kids, right? It's not anywhere close to the level of those. I'm fully kidding. I'm fully kidding, of course. I was torn between the 4 and a 4.5, but I went with a 4.5, and I'm glad I did. I think that's what I'm going to stick with.
I went with a 5.
Brandon, what did you go with?
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm gonna give it a 5, though, definitely.
Brandon gave it a half a star. He doesn't want us to know.
Yep.
Yes. But yeah, thank you so much, Sam. I really, really appreciate.
I'm glad you all enjoyed it.
Thank you for recommending this amazing film.
And I'm also glad we had some good discussions about it and had some wildly different takes. I'm very excited about that.
Definitely. But now we will be moving to Adam and his pick for this week. We'll talk about on next week's episode. So Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's 12:45. I won't take much of our time. This is a movie I'm very excited to watch. I first watched it in like 2014, I think it is. I remember really liking it. It's also one I've been meaning to rewatch for a while. And I figured since half this group hasn't seen it, Brandon, I think you gave it a 4.5, if I remember correctly. But my pick for this week is Danny Boyle's 2007 film Sunshine, which is a space movie written by Alex Garland, who of course went on to direct Ex Machina and Annihilation. He also wrote 28 Days Later. It stars Cillian Murphy, who's one of my favorite actors. Also Rose Byrne and a post-Fantastic Four pre-Captain America Chris Evans, and Benedict Wong before he was also in the Marvel Universe. So long story short, I remember really loving it. I'm looking forward to rewatching it. I want to see how it's aged, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think.
Nice. I'm excited.
Excited. Yeah. Thank you, Adam. But yeah, so with that, we're at the end of this week's episode. This week's amazing episode. Thank you all for joining us for talking about Hedwig, the sea lamp leaning over. But yeah, thank you for joining us this week. Really appreciate you tuning in for this week's discussion of this great film. But we will see you next week. I'm your host, Brandon Shellingforth.
Landon?
Adam.
And Sam Goodrich.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week. We'll be discussing Sunshine. But until then, watch the movies and be safe. Bye.